Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Monday morning. Football, basketball, hockey. We got so many things to get to. College football playoffs, pro playoffs. Let's start, though, with your Utah Mammoth at home against the Columbus Blue Jackets on Sunday. The Blue Jackets win 3-2 in overtime. And what was the problem? Well, it was pretty straightforward. Columbus was 2 out of 3 on the power play. And there it is. Conversely, the Mammoth were 0 for 2. And the Mammoth had the 2-1 lead early in the second period. Late in the second period, Columbus tied it on the power play. In overtime, they won it on the power play. So 3-2 the loss. Utah will take 1 point, and we will get the best of the postgame show.
DJ and PK, the Utah Mammoth fell 3-2 in overtime on Sunday night at the Delta Center to the Columbus Blue Jackets. It snaps their 3-game winning streak and drops them to 4-1-1 in January. But with the overtime loss, that means they do get a standings point, and they're in a 3-way tie with Seattle and LA for that first and second wildcard spot in the Western Conference. They'll take on Toronto coming up at 8 o'clock on Tuesday from the Delta Center. It was a game where both teams had their spurts. Columbus scored on their second shot of the game, 2:47 into the first period. They got the first 8 shots of the game before Nick Schmaltz drew a penalty, and that kind of shifted the momentum in that first period. Utah would finish the frame by getting 7 of the final 10 shots, including this one that bounced in off of Jack McBain.
Looking in, shoots, and a blocker save made by Greaves. Now they score!
Hot start for Utah to start the second. Mikhail Sergachev would wind it fire from Clayton Keller.
Puck stolen here by Nick Schmaltz. Now it's Keller grinding to a halt on the near side. Keller feeds the point for Sergachev. A shot tipped in and they score! 2-1. Sergachev's shot made it through.
2-1 Utah there. It would hold for 17 minutes and 29 seconds, and then the rest of the game would be dictated by Utah penalty problems. They took a late penalty in the second. Columbus scored on the power play. That tied us at 2 going to the third. Each team a power play chance in the third, no scoring, and after what looked to be a missed tripping call on Sean Dursey, Daniel Boot was then rung up for a penalty. So Utah, thinking they should be on the power play, then went shorthanded. They'd kill off the remaining 24 seconds, get us to overtime before the Blue Jackets would cash in and take it 3-2. Third straight game between these two teams that's been decided by a 3-2 score. Third straight game that the road team has won 3-2 in overtime. Utah get a chance in Columbus coming up in March. Vitek Vanacek on a scheduled night off for Karel Vejmelka stops 33 of 36. So nice start for Vanacek, but the Utah goaltender just hasn't gotten a lot of offensive support so far this season. Less than 2 a game. The Mammoth have gotten him just 23 goals in his 12 starts. So unable to get to 3 on this Sunday night here at the Delta Center. Let's hear from the locker room. Let's start with Mikhail Sergachev, who did get that goal on a nice little setup from Clayton Keller.
What did you want to see more out of your team in this one?
Better defensive performance from us. We, I think, gave up a little too much. I don't know what the analytics say, but it felt like we're under siege quite a bit and, didn't make the right decisions at the right times. And, that was the game.
When it comes to 5 of the last 6 games, defensemen have scored a goal. You've scored twice in those games. What are you seeing out of your ability and your teammates' ability to make sure they're getting those shots on net and there is traffic from the forwards in front?
There's, a trust from forwards that we're going to get it there. And, once they see we start scoring, they're going to pass it more, obviously. And that's the game plan we're trying to execute every game pretty much because every team is, trying to stay lower. So we're open up there.
Vitek Vanacek gets his first start in 2026. What did you see of his performance, especially in some of those tight moments?
Yeah, he was amazing. He held the ground for us. We gave up a little too much, as I said, and he was big for us tonight. We just couldn't done for him. Yeah.
How difficult is it to defend 4-on-3 in overtime, and how would you assess how you guys did?
Yeah, it is hard, but it's easier than 5-on-3. You know, it was a breakdown of, you know, pucks were flying around, high sticks everywhere, and you know, we just didn't get to set up in our formation and didn't get to defend that well. They attacked right away.
Just one shot on that first power play for you guys. How do you guys need to improve to get more shots?
Finding lanes probably. Passing around guys, getting to the net, boxing their D out, you know, creating some traffic in front, and yeah, I think that would be great.
Can you walk us? Oh, sorry. I was going to say, can you walk us through that goal that you scored there?
Well, I got the puck. I saw an opening, and I didn't even look what was happening at the net. I knew our guys were there, and you know, just bounces off their guy and goes in. There's nothing special about that goal.
So Sergachev got a goal. Jack McBain went 9 of 10 in the faceoff circle and scored his 5th of the year. 4 of his 5 goals have tied games for Utah. So a big one for McBain in the first. Got the equalizer for Utah. We heard from him afterwards.
Just in terms of how that game progressed, what did you see from your team? I know Sergey said gave up a little too much.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't our best game for sure. I think everybody knows that. But, no, we gave up too many chances. I think we tried to overcomplicate the game and kind of got away from our identity there.
When it comes to just bringing it to overtime at least and getting 1 point in this part of the season, how significant is it for your group to stay strong in those final seconds of the third?
Yeah, every point matters. I think, you know, the Kill did a good job to get it into overtime, and unfortunate, you know, they're on the 4-on-3 is tough, but yeah, every point matters kind of all the way through the rest of the season. So, you know, unfortunately we get 2, but I guess, yeah, 1.
It's a quick turnaround on this one. You have just one more day and then a game against Toronto. What do you guys want to carry out of this game going into that next one so you can rebound with the win?
Yeah, I guess like you said, I think, you know, you got a point out of it. It wasn't our best game. Learn from it, kind of move on. But I think there's a lot, you know, we got to learn, you know, about how we can play and, you know, learning to win and how to close out games. And so, yeah, not our best, but on to the next one.
What makes the biggest difference for you guys in terms of being stingier defensively?
I mean, stingier defense. I mean, it's you just. If you kind of look back at shifts, and you know, myself included, there's times where you get beat up the ice and you're not on the right side of the puck. So you know, it's kind of easy to look back on it, but it's just like little details throughout the game where you know, they make a huge difference.
Thank you.
So as he said, each team had their lead. Each team got a goal early in a period, tied it late in the period, and it came down to special teams in the end as the Blue Jackets able to win it 3-2 in overtime. Here's head coach Andre Cherney after this one.
Disappointing about the way we processed that game, the way our thought process, mindset, our play with the puck, our play without the puck. I think V gave us an opportunity to get a point, which is a big point, which is important. Thought against St. Louis, Veg bailed us out, so I was expecting definitively better from today.
How can this team move forward and improve on tonight?
First of all, you need to sting a little bit. It's not just about moving on; it's about learning from it. I think there's lesson to learn from that game. Like I said, it's not a matter of execution or effort. It was a matter of a mindset. Be ready to play the game the way it should have been played. And our decision with the puck, there's many things was not on par.
33 saves for Vanacek tonight. How would you grade his performance and what he did for you guys?
Really good, I think. Tough situation. Didn't play for a little bit and came in, and the guys did not play there. A game in front of him, and he kept us there. I think he did a great job.
It seems like that's been a theme every time that we've seen Vanacek in the last little while. He hasn't had a win since October, but he's had some really good games. Is that for any particular reason?
We played much better in front of him. Most of those games just did happen. I think tonight it's a win for him. He allows us to get a point. It's a big point.
How difficult is it to carry a PK into overtime, and how would you assess kind of how you guys defended it?
I think on the goal, I didn't like our decision. I think we got beat at the net. It's a good question, but I think I will have to look at it more than what I saw live to make a fair comment on it.
What do you want Danilo to learn after committing that late penalty?
That's a good question. I think it will be unfair to single out one guy. I think there's, like I said, didn't like our game.
So again, Vanasek had a good game, but unfortunately now it's 10 in a row. How does one get his confidence back when so many just bad things happen?
I think he played well, so I cannot say he was not confident in his game. I cannot say there was something missing in his game. I think it's us as a team who has to take ownership of it, and I think he gave us an opportunity to win, and he gave us he made us get 1 point, so he should be positive out of it.
There's still kind of a silver lining that you guys walk away with a point tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. It's great. It's great we got a point thanks to V, and we need to not be happy. I'm looking for the right word, but we need to acknowledge it's a point. It's a big point. It's important. We talk a lot about even when you don't have your A game, you need to find a way to get a point. We got a point, so it is what it is. I said in front of you I don't know when's our last performance I was not happy about. Maybe I think it's Boston or something like that. It's early December, so it's a month. So I cannot arrive in front of you and complain about the team. The guys are playing hard. They play good. They were tuned in. Where focus is good. Everything. Okay, we play a bad game. If we play one bad game a month, you won't hear anything from me. But it's for sure right now disappointing. I cannot arrive in front of you and pretend it did not happen. It did happen, and it is what it is. We'll move on from it, but we need to let it sting a little bit.
2 assists for Clayton Keller in the contest. The captain now with multiple points in 3 straight games for the Mammoth. And for the first time in his career, he has at least 2 assists in 3 straight games. 14 multiple point games for Keller, 6 since December 17th. And that is 3rd in the National Hockey League. So Toronto Tuesday at 8. We'll have it for you on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, and the KSL Sports app. Hockey Night in Utah starts at 7 o'clock on TV. The game will be on ESPN Plus and Hulu, so we will have your only local broadcast right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. And Mike and I are back for Mammoth Daily, your Monday morning power play, top 5 stories of the week. Wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Utah Mammoth YouTube page, Mammoth Plus, and SEG Plus. Mike will give you his morning after that tough one against Columbus, and we'll get you ready for games 4, 5, and 6 of the homestand. Toronto Tuesday, Dallas Thursday, and Seattle coming up Saturday afternoon. Have a good rest of your Monday, everybody, and we'll see you at the Delta Center tomorrow night.
There is the best of the postgame show. When we come back, we can talk about the Jazz getting blown out by 55 points Saturday night, or we can hear from the Utah and BYU coaches after the rivalry game. Yeah, I think we'll do that. Next, stay with us. Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Jensen coached his Utes up. They looked like massive underdogs to me, but it was actually quite the close game. A 1-point game late before BYU wins by 5. Here is Alex Jensen after the Utes fall at home, 89-84.
No, it was really fun to play with a full arena. I mean, a rivalry game, that was really fun, I think, for me. Reminded me of a few years ago. But for our guys, they played really hard. Can't fault the effort. We talk about the little things, little mental mistakes, little mental preparation things that can make the difference in the game. But really, really happy with their effort. The crowd was great tonight. Fun experience. Wish we could have, pulled it out at the end. But again, good experience, and we'll move forward.
Alex, in your mind, what ultimately kind of led you guys not to be able to get the result that you wanted?
I think it was, there was a lot of little things. I think a lot of game plan things, little details that, I don't know if we just forgot or didn't pay attention to. And then, down the stretch, we've talked about it for a while because we're going to give up size and to other teams, but giving up the offensive, it's hard to get a stop and then get the offensive rebounds. It's a hard thing to come back from, especially in the last few minutes.
Coach, Terrence Brown finished with 25 points and 5 assists. Can you just talk about his game tonight and how his fiery attitude and what it brings to this team?
No, Terrence is great. Terrence is, he loves to play, and and I give him a lot of credit because he's really trying to improve, do other things, and he continues to get better. But he, like the rest of us, I think there's a long way to go, and I think the approach we have to have, it's hard to give up 89 points and then 97 to teams like this and have a chance to win. So I think the focal point for Terrence and the rest of us, I think, has to start in the defensive end, and that'll help. I think it will, ironically, will help out the offense as well.
Coach, you trailed. BYU was able to extend the lead to 13. What was kind of the difference that allowed you to chip away and get it down to 2 points?
I call the timeout, and same thing. I've told them a lot. We've got to play with the pass. We got to get stops, remind them of the game plan that we were a little hesitant on, and give them credit. Same thing with Arizona. We fought back. We didn't give up, which is a message that they've taken well all year long, but. Moral victories are kind of getting old, but I think if we keep chipping away at it, we'll, again, continue to get better and it'll end up with wins.
Alex, you talked a little bit about playing in a full arena. I'm just curious, how different does that make the game, just coaching in it, for your players and all that stuff? And I guess, what is your plea to fans to continue to get the Huntsman Center?
Oh, no, it's a fun. I mean, that's the way that place has been for decades. It's the way, like when I played here, and there's nothing like it. I don't think there's a better place. We tell recruits and people all the time they built a 15,000 seat arena in the 70s for a reason. So it's kind of for me it's hard, because we play Arizona and it's half full, and that I kind of have a hard time comprehending that. But again, that's I think why myself and the rest of the staff and the players are here, because we're not building something from nothing, like it's there. So winning helps that, and I think that's the direction we're going.
Alex, Lucas had his first minutes of the season, and then he ended up leaving the game with an injury. First of all, what's his status going forward? And second of all, what do you think that he brings to this team that might have been missing before?
I think Lucas, he's older, and I think, European players in general kind of learn to be more professionals at a younger age. Like he's played on a big stage, whether it's, international competitions or just in the Spanish league. He's got size, he can handle the ball, and as you could see in the few short minutes, I think he's a really good passer, which I think will help, all of us be a lot better.
Alex, James seemed to be a little bit on a different level tonight and rebounding and all that kind of effort. What did you see from him, and how did that help you guys kind of stay in the game?
No, James has been great the last 2 games. That's kind of it's great because it leads us with a physicality and just his presence, and that's kind of what we want from him as a 5th-year senior. But yeah, he was great tonight. The last 2 games he's been great, and hopefully we get that same James going forward. But it was great for us, helps the younger guys.
Alex, you've talked a lot about just building a defensive identity, 3 games into Big 12 play. How do you feel like your team is just, I guess, adapting defensively? Do you feel like you've made any progress in conference play there?
I think a little bit. For a while it was rebounding, and we did a really good job. But, that's, I think, going to be a battle with our group going forward, because that has to be the priority. And, it's a hard thing for young kids, but it's hard to give up 89 points and win. Right, and if you look at all the good teams in college that make it or win, are the other teams that defend and rebound. But yeah, I'd like BYU's done a great job. Kevin does a good job. It's hard to have those guys be together. They've done a great job as an institution, and Brian, given the resources to the program, and they're just like Arizona. It's a great lesson for us to learn from. They play well together.
There's Utah basketball coach Alex Jensen. Now here's the Cougars coach Kevin Young, along with A.J. Dybantsa and Richie Saunders had a big game, really big second half for Saunders. Here are the Cougars.
Kevin, you talked about Rob making good decisions. He seemed to put the ball in his hand at the end, and he made some good ones. What would you comment about his, especially in down the stretch?
Yeah, he's got great poise. His decision making has been something that we've talked about a lot. He had just 1 turnover. He almost played the entire game. So they were obviously doing a lot with AJ, trying to get the ball out of his hands, and I can see why you would do that. But obviously we have a lot of guys on our team that can make plays. So Rob stepped up and delivered.
Kevin, Richie got 14 rebounds. Seems like he was in the perfect spot all the time. How effective was that to be able to get that in in this crunch moment where the game's tight?
Yeah, I mean, Richie's will to win is just like nothing I've ever been around. You know, he all wanted to get a win for him here his senior year. And, you know, he's possessed, man, in a good way. He just wasn't going to lose, bottom line.
Kevin, how would you just sum up how they kind of made you play differently than you would have wanted, and also the free throw shooting just at the end there was probably something left to be desired?
I agree with you, Jay, on that. I mean, there's no scheme for making free throws. You step up and make them or you don't. I mean, that's the bottom line. So I trust all of our guys to make free throws in big moments, and, you know, something that we just got to continue to, you know, work on, and which we will. In terms of how they made us play, I mean, look, we had 45 points in the first half and 44 in the second. So, you know, I give Alex credit. You know, was very NBA of him to come out and just try to not let the best player beat you. I thought AJ did a good job, though, still finding ways to get to his own spots, get fouled. He got to the line 12 times still. So, you know, our other guys really stepped up, and in terms of making us play a little bit differently, in some ways it helped us because now we're getting wide open shots and wide open driving lanes.
What do you think of that defensive stop by K-Dub late in the game to ultimately kind of close this thing out?
I just told the guys in the locker room, that was great. That stop was great. What I thought about Kaba, though, was when I tried to take him out of the game, when he got a third foul, he's the quietest person on planet Earth until that moment. He's never yelled at me louder than he did in that moment, which was awesome. I loved it. So Beto's like, am I still checking in or not? No, you're not. Go sit down. So that was cool. But nah, Kaba too. You know, we said we want to come up here and win this game for, you know, Richie, Kaba, you know, J-Mac and Dustin. And, you know, I thought Richie and Kaba's will in that game was probably the difference.
Richie, how does it feel to get a win?
Remember, raise your hand, please. Go ahead, Mitch. Finish. Then go with Sean.
Richie, how does it feel to get a win finally in this building?
I mean, it's amazing. I've come up here and come up short in overtime, lost by 1, lost by 2. Like, to be able to finish this is, you know, it's amazing.
Richie, it seems like a big part of that will to win that Coach was talking about with you. You did a really nice job in that second half getting
downhill. Just what were you seeing kind of offensively that was opening up for you, especially at the rim?
Yeah, I mean, they were really closing out hard to me, which allowed me to attack that closeout. And props to my guys for making the right reads and finding me in those closeout opportunities.
AJ, how would you describe your first environment in the Huntsman Center into the BYU-Utah rivalry, you could say?
Boy, that was crazy. That was super hostile. That's probably like, besides my high school days, that rivalry, that's probably like the most hostile environment I've been in. That was really like a welcome to the Big 12 moment for me.
Kevin, what was the message to the players after the game, and what do you feel like you guys gained from getting a win like this?
It was a hard-fought game, which we knew it would be. I mean, rivalry games are like that for a reason. It makes it super fun. I agree with AJ, just a fun environment. I mean, there's nothing better as a competitor to go into somebody else's building and beat them in their building, especially when it's somebody that there's a long-standing rivalry with. So really, it was really that. Usually, sometimes I'll get into the stats, this and that. Stats don't matter in a game like this. I just thought it was a really, really good, hard-fought win. And I just really praised, you know, I pulled Rob, Moo, and AJ aside separately and just kind of whispered to them, hey, I know you guys probably you didn't grow up hating Utah or having a rivalry, with all due respect, of course, in a nice way. But this game means a ton to our university. It means a ton for Richie, and you know, we want to send him out with the win. And that was really cool to see those guys step up in moments along with Kaba and Richie. So that was really the message. Just proud of the guys to you know, get it done.
AJ, you're used to being the target of the opposing fans. How were you able to handle that and some of the chants they were saying and still play your game and succeed?
I've been dealing with it since I was like 13. I've been getting hate comments, hate phrases, sayings during games. I done heard it all. So, I mean, I just got to play my game and just make the right decisions.
We have last question.
Coach, you've now coached 2 games here at the Huntsman Center, one against Craig Smith and the other against Alex. What would you assess? How would you assess kind of Alex and what you saw from Utah tonight?
Well, I've known Alex for a long time. You know, we've coached against each other a long time ago in the G League. we sort of broke into the NBA around the same time. And when I was with the Suns, he was with the Jazz. We had a ton of battles. So I'm very familiar with him. He's a good person, but you still want to beat him in a game like that. So he's smart, man. He's a smart coach, and he's just figuring it all out, all the idiosyncrasies. He joked before the game, because like in the NBA, like you do the anthem and like the coaches wave and you play the game. In college, like before the game, you like walk the line, shake, and he's like still trying to figure out if we're supposed to do this. So he's still figuring everything out, but he's a smart guy, man. And Wes with them, Wilcox too, they're smart. They have a lot of experience, and so this will be some fun games over the years between our groups.
There are the Cougars after they beat the Utes. The rematch coming up in 2 weeks. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're talking football with Dustin Smith, the Spanish Fork high school football coach, also runs QB Elite. His take on where things stand in our state now after that coaching carousel. That's next. DJ PK and Dustin Smith joins us, founder of QB Elite and Spanish Fork High School's football coach. Dustin, welcome back to the show.
Hey, guys. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Obviously, the world of college football has gotten super entertaining here in the offseason with the coaching carousel touching down, Kyle Whittingham to Michigan, Morgan Scalley, tons of assistant coaches moving, dominoes falling at other schools. I'm curious in all that's been written and said, as someone who has some access to some of the scuttlebutt and has probably heard stuff from some pretty good sources, do you think any part of this story in your mind has been missed or hasn't been told, I don't know, prominently enough?
What I think is the most fascinating thing to me, I mentioned somebody or heard somebody on your show, might have been you, David, a couple days ago bring it up. It's the trickle-down effect of this and how it really has affected so many other schools. And I think that the part that I personally believe is being maybe not talked about as much is the loss. In fact, I think PK touched on it in your last segment. I caught the last part of that, and that is the loss of Coach Harding from Utah. I think is something that in all of the movement and all of the things that have happened, and so much talk on the head coaches and offensive coordinators and things, that offensive line coach it's so important. And Coach Harding, in the 2024 fall, I had the top recruit in the state. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year down at Spanish Fork High School, and he was an offensive lineman. And he had committed to Utah and then decommitted and went to USC. So I was able to meet with Coach Harding as well as with most of the head coaches and offensive line coaches around the country. They were all after this kid. And Coach Harding is a heck of a coach and a heck of a recruiter. And, I know that Jordan Gross is I assume he's a good coach. I can't say I know that. I know he's a good football player. But that is going to be something that Utah, I think, is going to see right out of the gate is, will the offensive line do what they've done and be as effective as they've been when they've got a new scheme and a new personality, and can they keep that momentum up front? Because without offensive linemen, the quarterback play, the running game, passing game, none of it really matters if you don't have a solid offensive line. So he's the one that I think, he's a heck of a coach that I think Utah is going to really miss.
When someone makes it out of a community, that person then becomes a legend in that community, right? If it's a small town or a smaller player or whatever, and goes on and plays in the big leagues, the NFL, NBA, he becomes sort of a hero for that community they left. Like Mike Weir being a golfer from Canada. The guy's a hero in the entire country. He won the Masters. And where I'm going with this is one of your own, a high school coach, goes from high school to college head coach, Eric Kerr at Corner Canyon to obviously Weber State. Now he needs to start recruiting high school kids. Obviously, you wanted to beat him if you ever played him. There's no question about that. And there might have been some jealousy with all the winning. But is now he the standard for high school coaches? And then when he goes to recruit in the state, he's going to get a lot of love because he's, like I say, one of your own.
Yeah. And the thing about Eric is, I don't think anybody in the state has anything but just happiness and excitement for him and his success. And no, I never wanted to play Corner Canyon. I didn't want to. That wouldn't have gone well. But he is a great coach. I've known him for a lot of years, going back to when he was at Jordan, and he is going to have, I think, he's going to be a great recruiter. And he just added Isaac Asiata, I know, as his offensive line coach. I coached Isaac in high school. I've known him since he was 14. Another kid who's going to relate really well with the boys in Utah. Eric's going to do a great job up at Weber State. I think coaches respect him. So when he comes into the school and wants to talk to kids, he gets it, and I think he's going to be able to pick up on a lot of these Utah kids that are getting missed nowadays because of how hard it is to be a high school kid and to be recruited to, a big Division I school. The BYU and Utah, even Utah State, those schools, they really don't pay a whole lot of attention to the high schools now. I mean, they do, but it's third or fourth in the pecking order when they're looking for a kid. There's so many other kids they can go to before a high school kid, which means there's going to be kids who may have been a BYU or Utah State caliber kid, 10 years ago, who's going to be missed, and he's going to have to go to a smaller school and show it there and then leave. The real test for Eric, for all these schools at, the Utah Tech and SUU is building a program when you know that if you find that kid who's maybe the diamond in the rough or that kid that everybody missed on and you develop him and he turns into be a good player, that he's going to be gone. So you're never going to – I don't know how you're ever going to really, develop a program when the kids you're really relying on to win are constantly going to be jumping to can they get to a bigger school and make some money. So but we'll see. He's going to do great up there, though. He's a great coach.
Can those schools help themselves by getting the kids in the portal who haven't landed? We hear about all the kids stranded there. There must be some kids there who could play at the Big Sky level, because whatever these schools are going through, Montana and Montana State are going through it. People are getting recruited off the Dakota rosters, whether it's North Dakota State, South Dakota State, whoever. They're all going through it.
Yeah, and the programs who can do that, the programs who can do that and who can find those high school kids who were the caliber of, like I said earlier, maybe a BYU or a Utah 10 years ago. If you're not a 4-star, 5-star type kid now, if you're not ready to play as a freshman, then you're really not of interest, to these guys. They need a guy that can play now, or they'll just go find a guy in a portal that's ready. So those guys that, 10 years ago you might have brought in and redshirted him and let him develop a little bit, they're going to have to go and try it out at a lower school. And so if those kids can maybe improve faster and they can hit it in the portal with some of those guys that you mentioned that maybe aren't, look at a McKay Hillstead type kid, for example. Now he just, I believe, committed back to Utah State.
Right.
But McKay is one of those kids who's bounced around, who probably, if he had ended up at Bronson Barron did that down at SUU. He went out, he was at Weber State, he went out to Western Kentucky, didn't work, came back, landed at SUU and had a really good year. And I think McKay would have a really good year if he was at a Weber State or a Utah Tech or something. But I'm super happy for him at Utah State and hope he can thrive there. But there's kids like that are out there, and they're going to be at high demand. And Eric will do a great job, I think, at identifying those, because he knows who those kids are. He's coached those kids before, and there's so much talent just in Utah. If he'll just focus on the Utah kids, which I know he will, you can build a really good program around the Utah high school athletes who aren't going to the big-time college because of the difficulty in competing with the portal.
In terms of being recruiters, what do you think BYU is losing when Jay Hill and Guilford left?
A lot. I don't know Guilford as well. I've just heard things about him. I know Jay Hill very well, and Jay Hill's he's as good as they come at recruiting, and not only football. His ability to situational football coaching is something that I talk a lot about when I'm talking with coaches and players, and that's the ability to make calls during a game. Every defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator in a classroom on a whiteboard or watching film can sound brilliant, but what you do in the 10 seconds you have to make a decision on a 3rd and 6 and being able to anticipate the situation and what's this offensive coordinator going to do here? What does he like to do? And making the right call. And Jay has always had that ability to, it seems like he's kind of a one step ahead, or he thinks like an offensive coordinator, which makes him a good defensive coordinator. But he's so good with the boys. He's just got the personality. He's going to be perfect out there at Michigan. So I think that's going to be a tough one. I think that Papinga's he's similar. I don't know him as well as a coordinator, obviously, but he'll recruit fine. But I think that's going to be the BYU defensive identity, which is something they've done such a good job at building and establishing these last couple of years. It's a bummer that they may have that may slip a little bit. I hope it doesn't. And then in the case of Utah, they finally found what I thought was an offense that was going to fit the style of defense that they play. And some guys that I think if they'd have stayed there, what they were doing with all the motions and shifting and, the athletic quarterback play, and they were scoring points and not just relying on pounding the ball and playing defense. So losing Beck and Harding, both the defense at BYU and the offense at Utah, it's going to be a makeover that I think we're all very interested to see, and hopefully it doesn't take a step back. But I'm afraid it's going to take a lot of work to keep it at the level they finished at this year, because both teams were really clipping there at the end of the season.
What did you think of the fit of McGiven going and joining Morgan Scalley as an offensive coordinator?
I know that I talked to Bryson Barnes a little bit up at Utah State, and him having been at Utah and at Utah State, he really liked him, and said that as a quarterback, he was the kind of guy that the quarterbacks will really like. He's hasn't had the big name as some of the guys out there in the country have, that I think Utah probably could have gone after. So I think Morgan is establishing very quickly that he wants guys that he knows and trusts, and he's not afraid to just keep it here local, and guys who have been around, and maybe guys who aren't really looking to move. He wants a guy that wants to be at Utah, which I think Kevin or Coach McGiven is. I think offensively as a coach, what he was doing up there at Utah State, he had a similar style of quarterback in that he had a guy who could also run the ball, which obviously Utah's QBs can do. So I think that's a good fit. I think he'll be fine at Utah. I actually think that he'll do a good job. Will they be able to get going early and be effective early in the year? Or is it going to take a whole season for guys to figure it out? Because if that's the case, then I get a little concerned specifically with Ficklin. Is he going to stick around? I was a little surprised that both of those guys stayed. I thought that, especially Ficklin, that after what he did, that he might say, hey, I don't want to just be a wildcat guy, that he might have jumped. So, that'll be the big test for Coach McGiven, is can he keep both those QBs happy and so that they're both around in a year from now.
Now that his freshman season is over, I'm speaking, of course, of Bachmeier. I wanted your evaluation in terms of, I wouldn't say maybe certainly you were impressed, but what was your level of surprise that he was able to come in as a first-year kid and do what he did?
I was really surprised that he was able to do what he did. I mean, to come in as a freshman, and I think what we maybe sometimes forget is that he wasn't there for spring ball either. So
right.
To come in and to miss spring ball, and then to come in and to grasp the offense, and then it's one thing to grasp it, it's another thing to then be able to have it translate over to the field when your last real competition came with high school players, and he was playing good teams right away, and he had to be able to adjust and adapt quickly. And most freshmen, they'll have a handful of games where they get cooked because they're just not mentally ready, even physically, whatever. It's the mental and emotional side that they're just not ready to handle, and especially being a quarterback at BYU and following the quarterbacks that he followed out of BYU, there was a lot of pressure, and he came in and seemed like he just fit right in. And so I don't think that Coach Roderick he simplified the offense, I'm guessing, and I think that it was obvious in some games that Bear was. I think he might have been told who to look for and where to go with the ball, and they were trying to simplify it, which I think was smart, and it worked. They did just fine offensively. I think you hear sometimes people talk about sophomore slump or something like that. He's not going to be worse next September. He's only going to be a better quarterback. Physically, he's going to be better. He's going to have more control he's going to feel more comfortable, more control of the offense. They're actually going to be able to open up the offense more and add more to it. So now whether or not he plays as well or plays better, there's so many variables that go into that at the quarterback position, because you can improve and be better as a quarterback. But, as we all know, football is the ultimate team sport. And I think oftentimes quarterbacks he didn't do as well as he did last year. He took a step back, and, he didn't really take a step back. He's just as good or better. But the receivers or the offensive line, there's other things that took a step back, and then that reflects oftentimes poorly on the quarterback play. So if their run game can stay solid, they've got to fix a couple. They're going to miss a couple guys out at receiver. If they can fix those quickly, I think he'll have an even better year, because Coach Roderick's going to be able to add more to the offense, and Bear can only be more comfortable. But what he did this year, having missed spring ball, what he did performance-wise on the field, but also just as a leader, he seemed very calm out there. He didn't get it too up or too down. He handled the media well. So I think BYU fans have, a lot to be excited about with him coming back. It's the other positions and as we talked about, the defense, that I think is the areas that, really need to be focused on. Bear will be fine.
Dustin Smith joining us, founder of QB Elite and Spanish Fork High School football coach. As football has evolved here, when I got here, high school games used to go about 2 hours and 10 minutes. They ran the ball. There were guys getting recruited, but they weren't quarterbacks. And that has changed, and games now go 2 hours and 45 minutes, and there seem to be pretty good high school quarterbacks everywhere and a few guys who can advance on and play college football. Where does it stand right now as far as the high school quarterback scene in the state of Utah and potential college players, maybe for one of the local schools we mentioned here?
Well, I got to be careful, because the ego in me, guys that have been around quarterbacks and developing quarterbacks and focusing on quarterbacks, I think the guys like me in Utah, I want to yell as loud as I can to everybody that the best quarterbacks in the country are here in Utah, and I'm so dang proud of the quarterbacks here and the development they've had and how hard they've worked, because there were so many that were missed on, I think, years ago. And there were a handful of us out there that were saying, hey, you got to come and look at these QBs. I remember Ty Detmer, this was probably, 8 years ago. We did a camp, and Jaron Hall was, I think, a sophomore, junior. Zach Wilson was right in that age. There were a couple other guys that were right there that were young. And I remember him saying that there were kids at that camp that, had they been out in Texas, he said these kids would have had looks. They would have had offers by now. And he was impressed. And he, coming from Texas, he was impressed with the talent of the kids in Utah. And I think now, because of the success of some of these quarterbacks who have gone, obviously the group that's come out of Corner Canyon the last couple of years, but there's been some other ones. I think Maddox Madsen going up and doing well at Boise State, and we've obviously what Bryson Barnes did, having been a kid from a small school that no one really knew about, and playing well in the Rose Bowl and different things. I think we've shown that there is good quarterback play here, and coaches know it. I think that around the country, Utah is a place now where you don't just come here to try to find big, defensive, offensive linemen and linebackers, but we actually have some skill players out here, and specifically quarterbacks and kids who work really hard to do it. So there are some good players coming up. And as you mentioned, from the Skyview High School, the northern part, all the way down to Desert Hills and far south, there are kids all the way up and down that are good players that I think can go and can benefit from going to a school like, Weber and Utah Tech. And the question is, will they recruit those kids? Because I've said this forever. I still believe it to be true. I think there's too much that goes on. Maybe it's the sexy pick for a school to say that they got a kid from California. It sounds it sounds like you found some kid, right?
Right.
We found this. He's from Texas. Wow, he must be really good then. And where it's not if he's a local kid, but yet our local kids continue to show that they're good enough. And so, I do think with the coaching we have in Utah, I know Morgan Scally knows that. I know Kalani knows that. They're not going to miss on a Utah kid. Will those second-tier schools miss? I think they will, because they want to show they can recruit out of the country. I hope they won't. They'll just stay locally. Morgan, by the way, man, Morgan Scally, I've known him for 20 years, and I know I changed topics here, but Morgan, I don't think that Utah could have found, if they had looked everywhere in the country and had a chance to interview everybody in the country, I don't know if they could have found a guy a better fit for the future University of Utah. He and Kalani, it kind of reminds me of the start of what I think will be the old good old days with Ron McBride and Lavelle Edwards, and that healthy rivalry and the friendship and how kids just loved playing for both guys. Morgan and Kalani, what a heck of a place to be in Utah college football now, with the head coaches at all of the schools. It's the football is as good as it's ever been here, college wise and high school wise. It's awesome to see.
So Dustin, now the Corner Canyon's out, you want to handicap 6A football for us? No, well, they're not out. Football. I should say they're out now that their coach is out. I mean, who's to say, right?
Yeah. Look, 6A football when I say 6A football, there's about 4 schools. Mm-hmm. It seems like there's 4 schools in 6A, and then there's 3 or 4 in 5A, and then everybody else is scrambling. But it's Corner Canyon, Sky Ridge, Lone Peak, Davis is always hanging around there. But it's primarily those schools, I think, and Lehigh is always going to be a good school. In the 5A ranks, it bounces around a little bit, but you never know because of how many kids bounce around and transfer now. So, that's the unfortunate part, I think, about high school football in Utah, is the transfer game is out of control, and it really is hurting a lot of schools, and a lot of the smaller town schools are really paying the price for the way that kids bounce around in Utah. And it's not as crazy in other states as it is in Utah. And, everybody I know it's a sensitive topic for people, but for a lot of schools in Utah, it's hard. And for the schools at the top, these kids who come in and they're always going to be there. They're always going to be tough. The Corner Canyon's always going to be at the top of that. They're the Mount Rushmore of players and offenses, and so it'll still be Sky Ridge, Lone Peak, Corner Canyon. I'd like to see Bingham get back in there. I like the way they used to play, that just physical run over you football. And Davis, man, that Davis High School, they've been throwing the ball around really well, so you got to keep your eye out for them. But Corner Canyon, Sky Ridge, Lehigh, Lone Peak, those are your 6A teams. Pretty much 3 of the 4 will be in the semis every year. You can just book it.
Yep. Dustin, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
When we come back, what is trending? The headlines. Stay with us.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NFL.
From the 19, Stafford has it, helmet high, settles his feet, shoots right side, leaping catch, touchdown LA!
Wow!
At the front, right pylon, Colby Parkinson gives the Rams the lead.
Caleb in the gun, Swift to his left, snap back, 4-man rush, Caleb with a double move, throw down the left sideline, DJ Moore inside the 5, end zone, touchdown Bears! They've taken the lead on the Packers with 1:43 to go.
There's the snap, there's the surge, and I think they largely let him score on purpose. There was not much impedance there as Josh Allen is in for the 1-yard touchdown run to give the Bills the lead with 1:02 left in the game. McCaffrey is beside Brock in the shotgun. Here's the snap. Purdy wants to throw. Purdy pressured. Purdy steps up. Purdy throws. Caught. Touchdown, McCaffrey. Touchdown. 49ers back in front.
Drake is under center with Munford on the right wing, the extra tight end out there with a play fake. Drake on a deep drop, slides left, throws it to the end zone. Hunter Henry makes the catch. He's in. Near pylon. Touchdown, Patriots.
Highlights from the NFL wildcard weekend. One game to go, obviously, with the Texans and Steelers playing tonight. PK, there were a bunch of fantastic finishes there, really 4 out of the 5. You enjoy anyone more than the other? Think anyone was more meaningful than the other? Tell you about what's going forward, or these games are a coin flip, it's wide open, get used to it?
Saturday games were fun to watch. The Bills, man, I was nervous for you. Graham would have lit you up on Friday if Josh Allen had lost. I never thought it was the quarterback who wins or loses games goes a long way, but not exclusively. What do they call a wild card weekend when you have conference or division winners?
Because they started calling that when it was literally just the wild cards who played. They've never changed it.
Doesn't make sense. So, I mean, you need to call it, though.
Yeah. The Bills did get past the Jaguars, 27-24. They escaped. The Packers blew an 18-point lead and lost to the Bears, who are piling up fourth-quarter comebacks. Sometimes they come up a little short. Often they pull it out. So the Bears move on. That was fairly entertaining. Now, will the Packers move on from Matt LaFleur?
No.
Contract extension time. He's got 1 year left.
No. This is right here. Sources. Packers will try to keep LaFleur as head coach.
Try. How hard will they try? That's an Adam Schefter tweet that just came out this morning.
Well, he's the guy who, like the one lady telling the Jaguars coach, "You're great. Keep your head up. I love you." He thought that was a good moment. I don't know about that guy.
Puka-Nakua, another big game. Rams beat the Panthers 34-31. So we got 3 NFC West teams among the last 4 now in the National Football Conference because the Niners have advanced and Seattle has a bye. So they all sit there now. Who will it be? Going to get a third matchup here. Maybe we'll get a couple of them. Best of 3s. Let's go at it again. Maybe the Bears can mess that up. Niners will be doing it without George Kittle. Torn Achilles tendon during the win over Philadelphia. DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
Look, would we allow...
Look.
Indiana, 56-22 over Oregon Friday night. They've opened up as 7.5-point favorites over Miami. The title game is 1 week from tonight. That was pretty impressive. They took Oregon apart. Got that pick. They did give up a TD. It was tied at 7, but that was just one possession after another. Indiana just dominating Oregon.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking to see the Ducks lose again.
You're pretty frustrated by that?
No.
Anybody but Oregon?
No. I hate Ohio State far greater than Oregon. It's not even close.
Ohio State won, Oregon 2.
Oregon is just basically a hooker.
No, Ohio State 100.
Oh, Ohio State 1, Ohio State 2, Ohio State 3, Ohio State 4.
Not even close.
You can't usually work up that kind of emotion and stuff for this kind of stuff. But in this case, you can.
Oh, for
the
that
exception
team?
to every rule.
That team I had for years and years. Yeah, the others, no. Oregon, win, whoop-de-doo. Indiana, yeah, it's a fun story. Cuban, they said he never went to any games as a student. Now he's a #1 fan. That's the essence of bandwagon fan, which that's what fandom is. There's some people who are in it hardcore, but you wonder, Scotty G always talks about Boise, that there were no fans until they started winning, and they act like they were just lifelong fans. And so Indiana basketball was where it was at for so many years, and now it's football, and people are on board. Great. You have that right, even if it's somewhat cheesy, and they're doing it, and it's a fun story, and all glory to God every time Fernando speaks. I mean, he has that right too, and he's fresh, he's clean cut. He's in his sport, in a world dominated with tattoos, he knows. I know you don't see him. You have never noticed anybody has a tattoo. I understand that. That's the kind of guy you are, but the rest of us see it. And he comes off as a choir boy looking kind of dude, and 1 mile away from the stadium in Miami.
Yeah, he dropped that.
And nobody, they didn't want to even have as a walk-on, and his mother played tennis, and it's a great American story. See if they can finish the deal in 7 days.
Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss fighting for a 6th-year availability. It's going to the state courts after the NCAA's initial ruling denied him the extra year of eligibility. So, to the courtroom.
The state's court?
State courts.
What's that mean?
As opposed to going to a federal court, I guess.
So then, if he goes to Mississippi, he can only play in Mississippi. Suppose somebody takes him to court in Alabama.
That would be awesome. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Utah Jazz.
Those are my guys. That's a hard night for all of us. I make it a point to always stand because I'm never going to be the person that's going to sit and hide while we're getting our heads kicked in. But I also recognize I'm on these guys really hard, but in certain moments, my first responsibility is for them to know that I'm with them and that I'm not another critic, I'm not another person chirping from the crowd, and I'm not compounding what is already a bad feeling. You know, I have to have enough feel in certain moments to know they know and already feel awful about how it's going. They don't need me adding to that in those moments.
Utah Jazz blown out 150-95 by the Charlotte Hornets.
Is that the first Sunday of the month, Yako? What was that?
It's a 30-point game right out of the gate.
Something there. I wish he wouldn't have got caught F-bombing, because it seems like, man, he's been so gentle in all his public comments afterward. I mean, they sucked. Come on.
On purpose. Ran out a...
Wait, they sucked on purpose? That's not true.
When you pull Markkanen and you pull Nurkic and Kessler is already hurt...
That's management.
The
players didn't suck on purpose.
Yeah, they're too small. That was never going to go well. They're too small. They're too young.
So, go well, lose by 50. What do you want, a Jazz payroll here? They lost by
close.
55 points. They sucked.
Did you not know they were going to get blown out?
They lost by 55 points. Are you not hearing me? They sucked.
I know.
I know.
Was there.
Then say it.
Why do you have to say it when it's 55 points? They were sucking in the first quarter.
Why do we have to say it? Good night now. We're done. What do you mean, why do we have to say it? That's what I get paid to do.
That part's too obvious. The more obvious part is Keontae Fool's gold. 2 for 7. You got the ball. You're the guy. He needs veterans. He needs bigger guys. How good is he really?
What do you mean? He is who he is.
Oh, come on. Say it.
Say what?
He sucked.
He sucked. They
you
sucked.
Did not. You said they, not he, and that's different, and you know
that
it.
means, oh, dude. No, you're oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me.
No.
They includes A to Z and everyone in between. Go open up the effing box score. He sucked. And when you get like 10 he's, that equals they. Everybody sucked. I'm not making that abundantly clear. Of course he sucked. You want me to say it? Keontae George Saturday night sucked. He was awful. And everybody else was awful.
And why did management pull the plug on giving them a chance?
They wanted the lottery pick.
Because they beat Dallas 2 nights earlier on the second night of a back-to-back.
Kidding. If I could say no bleep, I would say that.
Oh, go ahead.
That's breaking news to you? You're giving us insight?
They sucked isn't breaking news either. You know, when you see 150
then why wouldn't you say it?
Because why didn't you just say it then?
I just... Did I just not say
Dallas,
they sucked?
The Dallas part, not that.
Well, yeah. Here's the deal. When they think they got a shot to win the game, they're going to sit Markkanen. Duh! They've been doing it, and they'll do it again. They got 3 more months. This week is the halfway point of the season. Duh! Like, no kidding. And if they have a back-to-back they can use as a rest, we already know the formula, and I support the formula 100%. But they got beat by 55 points. Whoever played, Keontae George apparently is a big deal to you, I guess. He sucked. But I'm not going to just single out Keontae George. Why in the world would I single out any individual when the team lost by 55 points? If Keontae George played the best game of his life, they would have lost by 40 points or 30 points or 20 points. I'm not going to single out Keontae George individually.
Because he's the only guy who played who there's any real long-term hope for.
Wow, you have no long-term hope for Hendricks and Cody Williams? That's the bigger story than me saying Keontae George sucked. Is David James, Mr. Basketball, who played and goes to the games and sits there and hobnobs with Lacombe and Jake Scott for some reason. You know far more about the sport than I do, and you just said that there is no long-term hope for Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams. That's the far great, and I'm glad you said it, because that's a far bigger story than Keontae George had a bad game. Whoop-de-doo, he'll have 100 more bad games. You think there's no hope, long-term hope. You just said it in your words for Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams. 2 draft picks then wasted.
I would probably say expectation instead of hope, because you're right, there probably still is hope for those guys.
Oh, I never said there was hope for those guys. You did. You said there wasn't.
There probably still is hope for them, but there is no expectation for them.
I don't know what the difference is.
It is more the hope and the prayer. Well, I think people expect Keontae to be good now.
Okay, fine. And he had a bad game. Yeah. Why in the world would I single him out?
I think the interesting thing because you expect him to go out and score 25 and 30 points.
As a 21-year-old? No, I don't.
Yeah.
He's going to have bad games. He'll have bad games.
I think what it comes to is the point that Will Hardy also made in his post game when somebody asked him, what can you take from a night like this?
Squat.
And I think maybe it was what the young guys can take from a night like this.
Squat.
And he said an appreciation of the veterans and that they need them.
Yeah, I need oxygen. I need food.
Yeah.
I mean, no kidding. I need love.
Now it's back on the road. Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell, Sam Merrill, guys with local ties, tip-off at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and they won't win this game, so Markkanen will play.
Yeah, on the road.
I support that. They need the pick. Duh.
DJ and PK.
#NBA.
Timberwolves beat the Spurs right at the end. Anthony Edwards, a little floater. They come back from 19 points down. They get the win. Sacramento Kings guard Dennis Schroeder suspended 3 games for confronting and attempting to strike Lakers star Luka Doncic in the halls outside the locker rooms after the Kings loss in L.A. December 28th. He will not play when the two teams play in Sacramento for the first time since that confrontation. Those hallways. Who was the guy who was in the hallway who ran all the way around to confront somebody else? Was that a Kings-Lakers thing also?
Christie?
Was it Doug Christie? I remember somebody did it, and I can't remember who it is now. It's a fight in the back hallways, chasing
around. I think
around.
it's been done multiple times. But if you're thinking of your Kings, I think Doug and his wife, the funny thing was his wife took off to try to intercept him or something.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's all blurry after a while. Mavericks big man Anthony Davis suffered ligament damage in his left hand against the Jazz, and surgery might be necessary to repair it, and that would sideline him for several months.
Do you believe that one play in that game against the Mavericks? And he didn't. What he didn't do, him and Locke were breaking it down. I fell asleep on Friday.
Oh, he was obviously hurt, and they left him in there for 2 more possessions in a 2-point game.
He's been obviously hurt since about 18 years old.
DJ and PK.
#college basketball.
BYU fending off upset-minded Utah. The Utes rally, get within 1 point late in the game, but the Cougars make the big plays down the stretch and win 89-84 and remain undefeated in the league, 15-1 overall.
Oh, yeah, they've played 3 lousy teams, though.
Yep. Feel like you did in the football season, you did quarters of the league. You feel like you can separate out top 4 teams in basketball? Does it break down that easily now? And that those teams are pretty much going to hammer the rest of the league?
Sure, I suppose so, but it doesn't matter. I mean, BYU's season will not be determined by what they do in January and February.
We're waiting for the NCAA tournament.
So everything is preliminary. They've got no depth. They're a rolled ankle away from one of the big 3 of going out in the second round. or they've got health on those guys and they all play great and they're
in the Final Four.
4 games away from going to the Final Four.
Yeah.
That's what will be intriguing. I mean, we just have to get through the preliminaries. This team, you don't pay this kind of cash and take Rob Wright off of Baylor's roster to finish third in the conference and go out in the first weekend. No, that's not it. They put together a team that is loaded at the top, paid big money for it. It's about, and A.J. Dybantsa has talked about, either we win it all or it's a failure. I'm okay. I mean, that's a high standard. I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I have to see how things play out. But really, what they do in the regular season, they're going to get in the tournament. I mean, they're not going to lose the rest of their games, barring some outrageous, never even think about injury situation. So,
no, it looks like they're set up to be a 2 or 3 seed in the tournament.
Yeah, and that's plenty good enough to get where they want to go.
Depending on how they do in these big games when they do play Iowa State, Houston, Arizona, I think that they have 4 games against those 3 teams.
And they'll be fun games. And
right.
They'll be barometer games.
And if they handle those, maybe the 1 seed's in play then, right?
But when the ball goes up in the air, that doesn't.
Then that's not going to matter so much.
And they're big games, and we'll watch them and go to them and evaluate the team. I'm not saying they don't mean anything, but they're preludes to the NCAA tournament. Because I think they'll win their share of these. They're going to win all of them? No. I don't even know if I'd want them to roll in the NCAAs on some kind of 25-game win streak or something. You know, have a few losses along the way. And big thing is to stay healthy, and you need Cada to stay out of foul trouble. And they don't have unless he tries to develop depth, which he doesn't seem to be interested in doing. This is going to be the pattern in which they win, and Saunders is going to have to hit a few shots, and away they go.
They've already had 2 injuries, so their depth is super limited because of that.
And then they don't seem to be super clutch at the free throw line. They struggled against Villanova in the first game, and they've struggled against the Utes here in the most recent game.
Utah State 14-1 and a perfect 5-0 in conference after blowing out Boise State 93-68 on the road. Aggies 5 wins, all against the bottom half of the league. The bigger games still to come. DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
Cubs make a big move Saturday night. They sign Alex Bregman, 5 years, $175 million. $35 million per year. Is that what that works out to? A lot of cash.
Yeah, now they have the, what was it? It's a while back now. The number 1 that went in the draft was Dansby Swanson, plays short. Number 2 on that same draft was Bregman. So now on the left side of their infield, they've got both of those players.
Yankees and Cody Bellinger at an impasse. They're talking contract extension. The expectation is both parties will move forward rather than signing an extension that could have been worth $30 million a year. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NHL.
Keller grinding to a halt on the near side. Keller feeds the point for Sergachev. A shot tipped in and they score! 2-1. Sergachev's shot made it through. Zach Werenski, wrist shot, shrugged away by Vanacek. Loose puck, bouncing up in the air. It's knocked down by the Blue Jackets. Utah wanted a puck played by a high stick, none given. Werenski up high, diagonally, tipped in, and they score. Columbus wins in overtime.
Columbus Blue Jackets beat the Utah Mammoth 3-2 in OT. The Mammoth undone as give up a pair of power play goals. Columbus converted 2 of the 3 power plays in the game. Power play goal to tie it in the second. And after a scoreless third period, they got a power play in overtime to win it. McBain and Sergachev the goals for Utah, but they get just 1 point. Mammoth are off tonight. Host the Toronto Maple Leafs tomorrow night at the Delta Center. Puck drop at 8 o'clock. That is what is trending. Coming up, Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach, will join us. Jason Cole, longtime NFL writer and analyst, at 9 o'clock to talk playoffs. The question of the day is next.
Whirls around and down. 97.5, The KSL Sports Zone is your exclusive home of the Utah Jazz, and we want to send you to the Delta Center to see the Jazz in action. Listen every Tuesday for the Jazz Ticket Tuesday Sounder at 30 past the hour, every hour, all day long. And if you're caller number 12, you'll be on your way to an upcoming game.
Buy one, you'll get one free.
It's Jazz Ticket Tuesday, every Tuesday throughout the NBA season on your radio home for the Utah Jazz. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Join hands at Scotty G Tuesday from noon to 3 at Sound Sleep Medical, 8941 South, 700 East in Sandy. Question of the morning. The Hornets beat the Jazz by 55 points, the worst loss since moving to Utah. How much more can you take? Leroy says the top 3 pick and all is forgiven.
Depending on how that top 3 player plays, which would be years to come to figure that one out, obviously, even if you get, no matter who you get, you're obviously going to get an extremely young player. And I don't think Dybantsa is a guaranteed lock, great NBA player. I don't know that I could go there. And that's nothing against him. It's just that being so young.
Yeah, it's a big thing to say
there's
this
just been
early. Yeah.
so few guys in the history of the sport. If you didn't think Kobe Bryant was going to be all that, or if you didn't know is more the appropriate phrase, then I wouldn't slap that label on any, whether it's the Kansas kid or Carlos's son or AJ. I am not going to go along those directions. Now, there's some guys that I think we had a really good chance. LeBron. My guess is if Lou Alcindor in another era had come out after 1 year of college ball, we probably would have thought, okay. But you're talking about the supreme elites of the game, and the rest of the 99.9% needs some time. But in the interim, if they got one of those picks, especially if they got number 1, then certainly you would say in the short term, all is forgiven. Because that's the purpose. That's the point of this season. They are tanking. No matter what Austin Ainge said in that great statement that he made, we're not going to be doing that. Well, yes, you are. You've already done it.
Multiple times.
There was a game, Denver, a few weeks back, where Markkanen played because they knew they were going to lose. Now, if they play Denver with their injury situation, they might think again. It's clear. If they're going up against a team where they think they've got an opportunity to win, not every one of them, because you don't need every one of them. You just need enough of them. And so they didn't need to sit Markkanen against the Mavericks and the Hornets. They just needed one of them.
Yeah, it's interesting if they'd lost to the Mavericks, would they have still sat him against the Hornets? And my guess is yes. They would have, because 2-game swing, the Hornets were a 13-win team.
If he played against the Mavs, yeah.
A more valuable loss, if such thing exists.
I think if I were them, I would try to tell them to sit guys during the week, because I couldn't imagine paying tickets for that game. That was awful.
People actually commented on that,
Yeah.
Jeff. If I had been there, I would have left after the first quarter when it was 45-14.
Yeah. I mean, that's just awful. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but they sucked.
The suckiest bunch of sucks who've ever sucked, to quote Homer Simpson.
I never watched The Simpsons, but as far as that night, that's a non-competitive game. I want moral victories, and they're capable if they've
done them.
But they're not going to play Markkanen, and he seems to be just fine going into his 8th year, having never played a playoff game. You don't hear him say a peep out of it, maybe behind the scenes, but nothing publicly. And he buys into their plan, is what he says. And it should help him on the back end because he certainly doesn't carry a heavy load now. He's not a grinder, that's for sure. And maybe he wants to be, but they won't let him. But the fact is, he's not a grinder. Whatever the reasons are, he's not one of these dudes that you can count on for 82.
I've seen teams suck before, but they were the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked.
In Utah Jazz history.
Yeah, I don't
But the New Orleans Jazz lost by 56, so how about that?
I'm not sure that's a controversial statement, that they sucked. If that's a controversial statement, then 85% of the stuff that I say is, which is not true. Maybe 25% at best of the stuff that I say is controversial. They sucked.
Phillips says tank on. Just one more season, people. He still has patience.
Well, I don't think that's true in terms of what is he saying one more season? Because now this week is the halfway point. So is he including next season when he says one more season? Or is he just saying this season as a whole?
I believe he's saying this season as a whole, but he doesn't specifically spell it out, but that's how I took it.
Well, we're halfway through. The 41st game is this weekend. And that's obviously the halfway through point of the season. So, yeah, do that. I mean, you're in position to keep the pick now, so go ahead and do it. Don't turn on the Jets and win a bunch of games. And I think they anticipate losing both games to Dallas, although Dallas is not a good team. They they have a 2-game swing with Dallas here coming up, where it's both in Dallas. So they sit there for about 48
Dallas,
hours or 72 hours, whatever it might be.
Yep.
So they have this opportunity to do that. Really, they need to go into the All-Star break on a real down note in terms of winning. And then Will Hardy can spin it as he sees fit.
Pile up some L's.
Yeah.
Work on that lottery position. Get from the 6th worst record to the 5th worst record.
Because
your odds of sliding out of the 8th.
only guy, and you know way more about the sport than I do, I would be the first to admit it. You believe the only guy with any long-term hope was Keontae George, who played on Saturday.
Everybody else is wait and see, or they've given up, or they're role guys. I don't think they think anyone else can be a star. Well, Ace Bailey could be, but he didn't play Saturday.
Did not play Saturday.
Yeah, he was at DNP before the game. He's been out with his hip.
So now you've changed from no hope to wait and see hope for Williams and Hendricks, which is your prerogative.
I would say there's no expectation for them, but there's still hope.
I don't understand the difference.
Well, I think people expect Keontae to be good going forward.
No, okay. Well, I'm talking about Hendricks and Williams.
I don't think people expect those two to be good. Fans. I don't think fans expect those two. I don't think you show up to that game thinking, well, those two guys are going to step up and it's going to be okay.
Rather than the fans, what do you think? I don't really give a crap what the fans think. What do you think?
I think that in the case of Hendricks, he is so big, so long, and it's really his second year because he missed a year. He can be a rotation guy. Old school, you know who he reminds me of?
No.
Is Orlando Woolridge, who played for the Lakers when you were over there covering them for the Breeze. Athletic, but not a super skilled, refined game.
So a back end of the rotation?
Yeah. Because he's long, he defends, he plays hard. But I don't see where he's ever going to score it enough that he's going to be one of your guys. One of your big guys that you can count on.
So not a starter in this league?
No, and if he is a starter, he's in the Brian Russell role of you're the fifth guy. And, if he is a starter, he gets to the point where he can do what Brian Russell could do. Like, hey, I can hit shots when my feet are set, but I'm not the guy and I'm not creating anything. But I'm out here to take the toughest defensive assignment on the perimeter. That, to me, is top shelf of what he could be.
How about Williams?
Right now, he's super athletic, but, man, he is just miles and miles and miles away. Maybe that athleticism can turn into something, but it just seems like he is miles away. They're still in the first 3 years, so, okay. I mean, he is better than last year. I'll give him that, but I don't see much there. And probably his top, although he's further away from it than Hendricks because he's still so slight, is defensive guy. A guy like that with that kind of talent, when the Jazz were in their heyday and their bench was loaded, to put him up there where you're just like, hey, you guys are going to go out there and you're going to defend. You're going to be in every pass lane. You're going to try and speed the game up and just run and run and run. Maybe he'd fit in that kind of scenario. But he's just, the threes are Derek Favorish. I mean, they are just so far away. And I know there's other NBA players who've gone away in the offseason, shot 10,000 of them, come back and been good. But those stories seem to be the outliers. It could happen, but you're going to sit around and bet on that? I don't get it. So it's too young to say 100%, I'm 100% out, but 90, 95% out? Yeah.
Wow, so you only give those guys a 5 to 10% chance to be anything in the league. Then this top 3 pick,
they need to hit.
In terms of, well, but I don't know that that's going to matter in terms of winning and losing next year.
With Markkanen, well, Nurkic will be gone. They'll have to get another big. With a serviceable big setting screens and getting rebounds, assuming Nurkic is gone, can they get to 500 next year?
I would say no way.
The thing that can get them there is that there's a lot of bad teams, and it's why they're doing what they're doing now. But the thing is getting to what, and this is the part I can't see. I just don't get this at all right now, unless, Ace Bailey blossoms and is transformative and whoever they land is massive or Ainge makes some big deal. But, you can get to 500 now. You are still a long way for competing for anything in May or June. There's enough bad teams. I think if this team were all in on winning, they'd win 30 games. Add another guy, add a veteran, develop some young guys, you could get to 40.
Well, that isn't this team then.
Team's going to have to evolve. I don't think they're taking this group of guys and just moving forward.
They never do.
I know.
So it wouldn't start now.
So that's why I say it doesn't have to be this team. There have to be some guys on this team, and a bunch of other guys are obviously going to come and go.
But you're asking me, can this team be 500 next year? Flat out, absolutely not. No way in Hades. Not a chance. Zero. I'll say it. Yeah.
Even with moves in the offseason? No. Okay.
This team is not with moves because then it's not this team.
Okay. Well, this team isn't going to be this team in another year. I think moves are coming.
I understood, but you asked me if this team could be. You're talking about this franchise could be 500 next year?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Jazz. Obviously, these 15 guys are right. Okay. Well, then that's what I think. The Jazz can be a 500 team next year.
Yeah, but
not
you didn't
these
say
exact 15
that.
Guys.
But that's what I was going on. You asked me about this team, and there's no way. And the only thing I said to add onto it is with a top 3 pick. This team with a top 3 pick next year? No. This team with 5 different moves? Yes. And I have no clue what the moves would be.
Nor do I. I just think they're coming. I don't think there's any point.
Well, it's a requirement.
Yeah. I don't think there's any point in standing pat with this group.
Well, obviously,
and
because you got their 2 highest draft picks outside of Ace Bailey, you give a 5 to 10% chance that they would be a back-end rotation guy. And I have no problem with you saying that. I can see why you would say that.
I feel like the core of these draft picks, the vast majority of these draft picks are guys who can play in the league for a long time, and they can't, but they're not going to be the top 50 players who move the needle. Doesn't mean you can't play. Doesn't mean you aren't a good player. To be player 100 or 150 or 200 in the world, it's pretty awesome. They'd blow you away if they showed up in whatever random game you're playing in on a Saturday. But it's the guys who are in the top 50 who determine the winning and the losing.
Fact.
And I just don't see most of these draft picks turning into that. Set Ace Bailey aside because he wasn't even in uniform Saturday night.
Okay.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Steve Cleveland coming up top of the hour. What do you say to a team after a 55-point loss? How do you get them ready for the next one? We'll talk with Steve about that and about the BYU-Utah game. We'll get to that coming up next. Jason Cole's here to talk playoffs at 9.
You've been listening to The Zone for decades. Yes! But now you can watch the guys break down your favorite teams.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Catch the video stream of DJ and PK, Jake and Ben, Hanson, Scotty, and JJ and Alex right now at KSLSports.com or by searching KSL Sports on YouTube. Utah's best sports radio is on air, online, and on the KSL Sports app. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
A packed Huntsman Center crowd saw a great game between BYU and Utah with the Cougars coming out on top. Why would you expect anything different? Vernon says, well, it's funny. It's only a packed house because they're playing BYU, and half the fans there are rooting for number 9 BYU. Utah's back to little brother status. LOL, exclamation points, laughing, crying emoji.
Why is that funny? Didn't we expect that?
Yes.
Utes have been drawn crappy.
For years.
Yeah.
And BYU's been the better team for years, although they have gone up there and been beaten in the Huntsman Center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, the money that Utah made, the athletic department through BYU's fans buying tickets counts just the same.
George says the Musts needs to go to more games and they need to practice with that big flag. BYU took over the arena.
Now, what was the deal with the ultra big flag?
Oh, it said Musts on it, and they got it backwards.
It's upside down.
Upside down, reverse. Yeah, it was messed up.
The sum.
Well, at least it wasn't the, the popular Utah student section, because then it would be pus. You don't want that.
Excellent point. Could have always been worse.
Hadn't even thought about that.
Shiloh said, easy question. No, period. Easy.
What do you mean, no?
It's exactly what he expected. Why would you expect anything different? No, I wouldn't expect anything different. This is it.
Okay.
John, it was a great game and great effort from Utah. They're outgunned by talent and money. However, they did play with heart and effort.
Yeah, that they did. Yeah, I mean, obviously they got a nice guard tandem. They can hit some shots there. They got a chance to win a few ball games this year. I mean, this is the first year of Alex Jensen. When you're replacing coaches who are fired, normally you need at least a season, if not 2. And the way the world works today, you need cash.
There it is.
You need cash at hand to be able to go be competitive. I don't think that they necessarily need BYU money to be competitive. I don't think that's required.
Competitive, be an NCAA tourney team?
I think you can do that. Yeah. I think, Alex, I would be surprised if we're sitting here in 3 and 4 years if they're not at that level. But, if you want to be one of these contenders, I mean, you look at when they were contenders, when they did go deep, when they did go to the Final Four, they had multiple first-round picks.
That they did.
Yeah.
And first half of the first round.
And so can they get that in today's world? That I'm not sure. Majerus, Donnie, and Judd, they got those guys.
Different era, different rules.
Yeah. Doliak was a sleeper. Van Horn was not. He came in with some acclaim, and he ended up being the second pick of the draft. And Miller, was a prop kid, which I don't hear about that, so I assume they don't even have that anymore. And so other schools backed off of him. But I can recall talking to Donnie Daniels on the phone one time, and I knew who they were recruiting, and I knew of Andre Miller. And I said, hey, and they would let you know if they got somebody, so then you'd put it in the paper. And so I said, there was standard. Let me know if he commits, or give me a call when he commits. And Donnie said, oh, I won't have to call you. I said, what do you mean? He said, that loud scream that will echo throughout the Salt Lake Valley, that'll be mine. That's what he said to me. So obviously
So when is Alex going to land a player that will make him scream throughout the valley?
They're going to have the money.
Yeah.
And so that's the
because I don't think they have to have 3 of those guys on the team at the same time. But if you don't have one of them, how are you going to get to the tournament?
I think you do have to have 3 of them.
To get to the tournament?
No. I'm not talking about getting to the tournament.
That's what I was talking about.
I don't think they need the top-level money to get to the NCAA tournament. No. I'm talking about to recreate what they had in the 90s when they went to...
Now you need a pile of cash, and you do need 3 guys.
Yeah.
Much as BYU has 3 guys playing at a very high level.
Uh-huh. Until they get that money, I don't know that they're going to be able to do that.
But can the Utes get one of those guys so they can be an NCAA tournament
team?
team?
I already said that.
Right,
in
so
3 or 4 years. But that's not going to be good enough.
Once you're in the tournament, you're going to want to win. Once you make your way.
Scally's up there talking about we can win the national title here.
Yeah.
That's the goal. It's not about getting to the tournament. It's about, like they did in the 90s, to be a threat. They were going to multiple Elite Eights, and they got it done once, went to the Final Four. But they were going to multiple regional finals. That was the whole objective in October when the season would start. So can they get to the NCAA tournament? Absolutely, they can get to the NCAA tournament. And there's no doubt in my mind. Utah State gets there regularly. Why wouldn't Utah be able to? I realize it's a tougher conference and all that, but still, they can get there because, my gosh, you look at the Big 12. I mean, there was a few years back, Oklahoma was like 8-11 or 9-11, and they got in. And they're like 8-9 teams got in. So to get in the NCAA tournament, there's just no doubt in my mind they can do that. You got to give them a little bit of time to beef up the talent. And I mean, actually, when you think about it, when he got the job and the team that they put together so quickly, this is a pretty good job this season. To be competitive against that big money BYU team, and you basically threw your roster together on the fly, and everybody left except Dawes, and you brought in an entirely new group of guys, and here you go. That's not a bad job already.
Much better than a week ago against Arizona when they were out of it pretty quick.
Yeah, they're playing in a half-empty arena. Alex himself said he was disappointed when Arizona came in that it wasn't full. Here it was full. It was energy. It's a rivalry game, blah, blah, blah. Throw the records out, yada, yada. Yeah. And then you take this team, a top 10 team with multiple draft picks right down to the end. That's a pretty good performance for Alex Jensen in his first year in his third conference game.
Yeah, the best of their three conference showings so far.
Yeah.
DJ and PK, when we come back, more hoops. Steve Cleveland joins us. Stay with us. DJ, PK, and we're joined now by Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach. Steve, good morning.
Morning.
How surprised were you, Steve, to see an 89-84 game with BYU at one end of the Big 12 and Utah at the other end? Did that surprise you that it was a 1-point game late?
Very, very, very surprised, to be honest with you. And part of it probably is I haven't watched Utah play a lot, but just watching comparative scores, I just didn't see this being a competitive game. Now, there's a couple things you look back in history and know that anytime you're having the University of Utah and BYU playing each other, there's going to be great interest and great energy and intensity, and guys are going to play well, and you expect that. But to be honest with you, just looking at what Alex Jensen is having to go through in terms of rebuilding a program, it's not easy to do. Obviously, it's much easier to be at home where you have fan base. But I wasn't at the game in person, but it looked like there were a lot of BYU fans there as well. Not that long of a drive. But I thought what Utah was able to do and pull off, and again, you had situations where, Brown and McKinney both just kind of go off, and I didn't know a lot about the team, and so when I watched it, I was just amazed in how competitive it was, how guys just made big shots, and there didn't seem to be any nerves at all. And it's not that BYU didn't play well. They did. They did a lot of good things. AJ and Saunders, Keita, all of them were doing what they always do. But you get on the road, or you get in a game where everyone expects you to lose. You just go into those kind of games, maybe a little more relaxed, and the pressure was kind of on BYU. So it was a great college basketball game. I'm not surprised that BYU won it. I'm just surprised how close that game and how competitive that game was. So kudos to Alex and his staff and his team for really going through a very tough time of rebuilding to play someone as good as BYU is. I know it's on the road, but they're a well-oiled machine, and I've watched them play all of their games, and they're really, really good. Kevin Young's done a great job, his staff. So fun to see that. Fun to see games like that where expectations are kind of low, and then all of a sudden they're met.
My concerns for BYU obviously don't include the main three. The only thing with Keita is staying out of foul trouble. I like Davis's approach to being kind of a junkyard dog, do whatever you need to do, bulldog mentality. But beyond that, that bench is really worrying me because they got 3 points the other night from the bench, and you're going to beat teams that you're supposed to beat, and you're going to have success in the conference for sure. But when you get in the NCAA tournament, which will determine the success of the season, you're like a rolled ankle away. In terms of cultivating a bench, how does Kevin Young go about it? Because I just don't know that they can continue with such little production and playing these other guys 35-plus minutes a game.
Well, that's a great insight. AJ and Saunders and Wright, they've been successful, and they've gotten good play out of Cade. Cade was hurt for a while. They miss him, his rim protection, and Kennard Davis is getting better. But you're right. After that, you just don't know. Boscovich is Kostick, Diamande, Mupo, Marus. They're all 2, 3, 4 point game guys, and and they're well represented internationally, but they just don't have that experience. And so I think the depth will be an issue. And, you're talking about a conference here where Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, Texas Tech, all of those teams are really, really good. And I don't know, I'm not as prepared as I probably should be on those other teams' depth charts, but I do know this, that it will be an issue if there's any kind of foul trouble or injuries. It'll be really difficult, especially on the road in this league, when you have to go to Arizona, when you have to go to ISU, when you have to play Houston, Texas Tech. There's a very, very competitive league, and if you have injuries or guys aren't playing well, it can be really difficult.
Abdul Ahmed has only had 4 games with BYU, so I don't know if you can make any really definitive statements about him, but what do you think about him? Because he would be, to PK's point, a 6th guy. It'd be something.
I did not hear the first part of that. So
what do you know about Abdullah Ahmed? He's only played 4 games with BYU. How much do you think he can contribute as far as adding some depth to the team?
Well, I think he can. We have to be understanding of the fact that he's, like you said, played 3 or 4 games. He doesn't have quite that experience, but he brings something to the table there with his athleticism and his energy. He runs the floor. I think he can. He's going to have to help. They do need to kind of energize that bench, and the only way players can really grow up is to go out and be on the floor, make mistakes, and go through those situations, have some successes. And so I do believe he can help, and he needs to help, because they just don't have that depth. They don't have I don't want to say depth. I want to say experience. They haven't been in those kinds of settings. So it's needed. I would expect that staff to continue to give playing time to those that, especially, the problem is when you're in the preseason and you're up 20 or 30, you can work guys in and help them get their confidence. But from here on in, every night is going to be a challenge, and you just can't put inexperienced players in games where meaningful moments where you win, where you're looking at winning and losing games, you kind of stay with your core. But long term, to go through this conference, you're going to have injuries. You're going to have guys that kind of lose their confidence. And so to get some of that bench strength would be really helpful for Coach Young and his staff. So because a lot of teams are just one injury away, or guys get into a little bit of a slump, and you've got to now go on the road and play Houston, go on the road and play Iowa State. It can jar your confidence a little bit. So, I really believe in that staff and how they've developed this team, but there are the unknown things where injuries and guys lose confidence, especially on the road. Winning on the road, I don't care what their record is or what's going on or how successful teams have been. It's hard to win on the road. And we saw that against Utah, a team that no one clearly thought they had a chance of winning, despite the fact being at home. And I didn't know anybody. I was sitting there looking at the roster. I said, I don't know any of these people, But, this morning I'm looking at Terrence Brown and Don McHenry and Traore. And you look at guys like that and you go, hey, this team is really solid. So I wish Alex well, and hope they can continue to compete and get better. I'm confident that BYU will be there at the end. They just got too much talent, great coaching, and a depth chart.
All right, I'm going to throw this at you then. You're playing to win the game, all right? That's the obvious statement. But how about if you would lose one or two along the way, you're still going to make the NCAA tournament. You're probably going to get a decent seed. Most likely you're going to make it to the second week, and then it depends on matchups and how you play in those individual games. But maybe in the first half, early in the second half, maybe give guys some more time, even if it ultimately cost you a game or two, the opportunity to have, one step back, two step forward. Do you buy that theory?
Well, I tell you what, my thinking is this. I'm looking at this roster right now. Looking at Boscovich, Kostic, Diamande, Mabu, Marus. We're talking about guys that have not played significant minutes. And it's way easier to play guys early in games. The mistakes aren't so terrifying when, it's hard to put guys who haven't played a lot and put them in, with 7 or 8 minutes to go in a game.
Right.
And expect to step in and that's unfair to those guys.
Right.
But I do believe that even though Boscovich and Kostic and Diamande, they're all averaging about 3 or 4 points a game, they have experience. You start looking at these guys, and Boscovich is from Serbia, Kostic is from Austria, Diamande is from France, Mabouk is Senegal. These are guys that have been playing other places in the world, and I realize it's different, but I think that having those international players who have played from a very young age, I think that's more, the likelihood is that these guys will adjust. There's enough talent there. I think you got a coaching staff that will develop and pick and choose. I like the opportunity, especially when I had guys that have lost confidence in that 7 or 8 position. I can remember very quickly getting those guys in games early on because that let them breathe a little bit. They got to touch the ball so that if they are needed later in games or later in the season, you don't just have a rookie that's just bouncing off the walls and not making good decisions. I like the idea of taking guys to your 7 or 8 or 9 guys, sub those guys out. AJ needs a break. Saunders needs a break. Wright we know those guys are going to be in the games. But developing the bottom half of that bench would be a really wise thing, just for the sake of just injuries, road challenges, and all the things that are going on. And you start looking, you're at Arizona, you're at Iowa State, at Houston, Texas Tech. Man, that's murderer's road. Not only those good teams, those are great coaches, as is Coach Young. And I think Alex, he grew up. And I just respect that so much. And I know it's difficult. It's going to be difficult for him. But I remember playing against him teams when Rick Majerus was the coach. And we were just overwhelmed trying to get competitive. And eventually that happened, but not without some real whoopings that we received at their benefit. So I like this league and this conference. And we're going to see lots of upset nights. It's not going to surprise me any night somebody gets beat on the road, just because this league is so good and has so much depth.
You had to go through some rebuilds. You must have taken some beatings. What do you say to a team after a 55-point loss like the Jazz just suffered?
It's funny you should ask me that because I had spent, as I prepared for this today and just thinking about it, I was thinking about the Jazz and they're 1-5 in the last 6 games. They did beat Dallas, but I have watched this team, and when it's difficult enough when they're fully healthy. When they're not healthy, it's impossible to compete. And I don't know what we call this. I hear publicly that we're not rebuilding. We are rebuilding. We're not starting over. We're not going to just lose 30 games in a row and see what kind of pick we can get at the end of the year. This is an organization that's trying to win and compete. And I think that both Danny Ainge and Austin Ainge, they're really experienced, years and years of experience. people ask me all the time, is this a rebuild? And I said, well, I don't think that's what people are talking about. I think what they're talking about is we just got to continue to get better. I think focus on playing the guys that need to be played. You look at Markkanen, 28 a game, Keontae, 24 a game, Walker Kessler, 15, Ace Bailey, 10. I mean, you've got a lot of depth and guys that can play. It's just not winning the close games, putting themselves in a position. I mean, it's hard. I can't even imagine being in that situation and playing that league. You just got to stay positive with the guys. I think skill development stuff that's going on after games, before games, 2 or 3 game breaks, you're still working on those kinds of things where guys just got to get better. And there is some experience there. And, one of the disappointments for me, and I really, really like Walter Clayton Jr. out of Florida. I thought he would be kind of an impact guy, and he really hasn't been. But I thought that he'd be somebody that could really step in. I'd like to see him, see where he can go and what he can do. But, I mean, it's tough. It's tough, and this league's good. And you just got to be positive, and you got to work day in and day out. It just doesn't do any good to drag people in the mud and start pointing fingers. And I know fans can do that, but not coaches. I just don't see this staff giving up on these guys. But it's hard. Your gut never really feels good. And I've been involved in enough rebuilds from the high school, junior college, Division I. It's hard. And I think I spent way more time on culture than I did worrying about X's and O's. And I learned a lot about myself and about my guys, and spending time one-on-one with my guys and making sure that mentally and emotionally they were okay. I go back to that word culture. And I think that if you're trying to develop and build a championship culture, it starts with relationships with your players, relationships with your staff, and being really just open to thoughts and ideas. And there's no unless guys are, if there are effort issues, then shame on them and they come sit on the bench. I just don't think there are effort issues with this group. Injuries can be devastating for teams that don't have the depth and the talent. God bless those guys, man. I hope they get it going. I want them to be successful. And obviously we all have connections to the staff. You just have to hang in there and stay with it. And I trust them and I believe them. Hopefully there's some trades or a better draft or whatever the circumstances are. But I believe in Austin Ains, and obviously I believe in Danny and what these guys are doing. And I just hope that we can turn the corner where wins are possible and plausible. And right now, the last 6 games are 1-5, and unfortunately, the league is really good. And so I'll be there rooting them on, and I believe in those guys. And I just really, really hope that the confidence will swing and guys will start seeing that thing that ball going through the basket where they can go and win on the road. And a win on the road right now, no matter what happens at home, but winning on the road could really galvanize the team and give them the confidence to win at home. And I know it's really hard, but the interesting thing, the only win the Jazz have in the last 6 games is a big win over Dallas, 116 and 114. So maybe another game or 2 like that, and this group can get revitalized and get more confident with what's happening. I think the bases are all covered with coaching staff and organization. It's just guys just got to start believing and spending the time necessary off the court to find ways to win a few games.
Steve, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for joining us. We will talk to you again next week. We're just 2 weeks away from another BYU Utah game. So there you go. The rematch is coming.
Have a great week.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Jason Cole, longtime NFL writer and analyst, joins us coming up at 9 o'clock. PK, is there another topic you'd like to get to next?
Yeah, man. All these people living in Salt Lake City East.
Or Ann Arbor. We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
It's funny about Kyle Whittingham, he does not care about his legacy at all, which is weird. I would have thought that would be more of a priority, but obviously it's not. I mean, the bitterness of sticking it to Utah outweighs his desire to have any sort of legacy, which is, I guess, kind of crazy. I mean...
You think he's trying to stick it to Utah?
Absolutely. Gary Anderson said as much. They shouldn't have pissed Kyle off. Use that word.
Yeah.
I don't know why anybody would think any differently.
I certainly don't think Witt was trying to do Utah favors on the way out the door. But again, to your point, like, what was he supposed to do? This is how he's become Kyle Whittingham, is these people around him. So he's going to go back to the well of the people around him to try and do a good job at Michigan, because I suspect he wants to do a very good job at Michigan. You know, he wasn't going to go out there and start over from scratch. I'm not sure that has so much to do with, well, let me stick it to Utah now.
Catch Jake and Ben weekdays from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Brothers Osborne.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Another Ute to Michigan, PK. Officially, are we at 2? Unofficially, where are we going to end up?
We got 2 players. Who is it? I thought it was 3, but if you're saying 2.
John Henry Daly.
Right, and they got a defensive lineman and now J.J. Buchanan.
Yeah, Jonah Leia.
Yeah.
Yes.
As well
so
as
J.J.
3. Buchanan. The other 3.
Right. So 3 players have gone to or making their commitments to go to Michigan. I guess they probably got to get there real soon. Semesters are starting, if they have not already started. A lot of schools. I was on ASU's campus on Saturday watching kids move in as school starts today, and it's an exciting time for if you're starting in the middle of the year or in the beginning of the year. Right now it's the middle of the year, obviously. Academic year I speak of. So you got to get back there, and kids have been making their commitments. And so there's some angst, about Kyle not wanting to tamper and saying he wouldn't tamper and then taking guys. But he did say if they put their name in, we'll check them out. And losing as many staff members, basically the whole offensive staff -1, a defensive coach, 2 from BYU. You guys, I never saw the release, but you said that Alsea, the strength and conditioning guy, is going over there.
Yeah, I saw that on social media. I didn't see a release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of folks to be taking. And, a lot of people going back and forth. Oh, blame the Utah administration, blame Whittingham. He's a traitor and this and that. All's fair in college football, basically, as far as that goes. There is a thing that I would like to say regarding that. Is I believe that Kyle had made his decision on December 12th. They made it known. It was
December
Friday.
12th is when it went public, on a Friday, yes.
But I think
Friday news dump.
On that, was it 2 days before that the Michigan thing exploded?
I believe it was already out there. I don't know the date. I'd have to go look at the date.
So the point being that it was already out there when they made the release, when they put the release out on Friday news dump. Did it would have gotten any less publicity if it was on Friday or Monday or Wednesday?
I don't know. I just know that on Friday the 5th, we were all standing out there by Yock's desk joking about Friday news dump. He's going to quit, and we missed it by a week.
Yeah, but so what?
I know.
It would have been less impactful or more impactful if it was Thursday or Wednesday or Saturday or Sunday. I mean, the news was what it was. I don't really care about that. I think that I wonder if Utah's administration had anticipated this, and was there anything that could have been done to prevent it? Because they knew that Michigan's job was going to be available.
Yes.
Right? At least 48 hours ahead of time.
We all knew about it. We talked about it. We ran a poll question on should Kyle be a Michigan man was one of the 4 answers.
But that was after.
It was on the 15th that we ran the poll.
No, I'm talking about before.
Could they have known? There was only like 48 hours.
Right. Okay.
Because I'm trusting your timeline. I haven't looked it up. But
that's plenty of time.
It feels about right.
Should they be surprised or should they be irritated? Should there be any of this stuff? Because he was a premier coach with a squeaky clean image at a time that Michigan was having all sorts of tawdry things going on. And so naturally, that they were going to call his agent and say, do you think that he would be, or his agent was going to call Michigan?
Exactly.
And
one way or another.
I've texted with his agent.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, should they have said, well, okay, how about you come back for a year and then retire? So they could have prevented it, because I don't think he takes any random job out there to coach, even in Power 4.
Yeah.
But Michigan is Michigan. And it is something that is way above Utah, as it's way above just about everybody. And so the opportunity to have that presented to yourself is something that you're going to take. Well, who's to say next year there would be a Notre Dame-like job that would come available? So should they have said, why don't you just come back for this next year? And Morgan, you can wait a year. And, if Morgan wanted to go.
And you can bring him back.
Well, even if he doesn't come back,
you can hire somebody else.
The program does not rest upon one person, according to Morgan's own statement.
Yeah.
And so risk losing him? Okay, you risk losing him. All right. Or you just say, fine, we're completely content with the guy we have, and that Whittingham was going to take these guys, and whoever else wants to go, J.J. Buchanan, and there's some other guys out there, go ahead and go.
Yeah.
See you later. Goodbye. We wish you luck. Is the administration, Mark Harlan and his people, are they, and President Randall, are they comfortable doing what they did and knowing that Michigan job was available, and so Kyle might take it, and therefore there's a decent chance that he was going to lose these guys? Jason Beck has no allegiances to Utah.
Or anybody, to himself, to his family. I mean, look at how he's bounced around. This is 4 schools now, 4 schools in 4 years, which is the profession. I mean, it's what you signed up for.
Yeah, if you choose to.
Sometimes it's your call. Sometimes it's not. I mean, this was his call, and last year from New Mexico was his call. But just as easily, assistant coaches
and the food chain would dictate
that
that's what you do. You would say yes, 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 and yes.
Yeah. Right. Yes. In his shoes,
right.
99 out of 100 coaches would have done what he'd done.
Unless there was some pull here locally. I mean, he didn't grow up here. He's a California kid.
Right. Yeah. That's why I said 99 out of 100. Yeah. There's one.
He has a history here. He coached at Weber, coached at Utah, and I think he was on at least some form of assistant under Bronco at BYU.
But it's Michigan, and it's the Big Ten, and you're going to.
So should we just shrug and say, oh, this is the way it is, and not have negative feelings towards the administration and Kyle? Is that the way? That's the way I feel.
Yeah, but you and I didn't grow up wearing the red, going to the bus stop, yelling at Cougar fans, getting yelled at by Cougar fans. We don't have it. That's the way I feel. Like, if Morgan is your guy, he was always going to have to make these decisions. I think it's pretty much played out. I never thought Kyle was going to.
Who was going to have to make these decisions?
Morgan was going to have to hire coaches, and it was going to have to replace players. It's more all at once than I expected, or that you would expect in that transition. But it happens. I mean, Kyle had to do it when he took over. Coaches go. Urban took a bunch of people. But I do think Morgan was going to be hiring 2 or 3 people, and instead he's hiring 5 or 6, or maybe even more behind the scenes we don't know about.
Oh, yeah,
so
because
it's a little more.
Even if he had retired, Kyle, who's to say that all those offensive coaches would have just been retained or stayed of their own choice? Maybe they could have got maybe somebody else would have come after Jason Beck.
Yeah. And it had been stuff all along that Harding was planning to go with Kyle. That's been out there. Lots of people have heard that.
Right, but if he doesn't take that job, does Harding still stay?
Oh, no, I meant that Harding was going to leave when Kyle left, wherever he went, and whether he retired or whatever.
Going with.
I didn't mean, I didn't make that clear. That Harding, regardless of whatever happened in Michigan and with Kyle and all that, that Kyle was going to leave Utah. When Kyle left Utah, Harding would leave Utah.
Okay. And go someplace else.
Whether that would have been, that was the assumption, whether it would have been true, who knows? Now, this was the option, and it was a no-brainer.
And is it buggable that he's taking So far, 3 players.
It doesn't bug me, but I absolutely get why it bugs Ute fans.
Why?
Because in our world, because they want the Ute players to be their guys. And they want Kyle to
just
leave
like
a
Devin
legacy.
Dampier was your guy.
That's different, and you know it. Even though it's not different, and you also know that.
I know, but I think Ute fans can look at the situation logically. Just because you're a fan doesn't mean that you have to be illogical. You can look at it and shrug and say, well, we got these guys, and Dalton Kincaid was at University of San Diego. Yeah. And he came here.
And when the Utes hired Beck away from New Mexico, they got New Mexico's quarterback and they got New Mexico's star receiver.
Yeah.
Bing, bing. There it was. And they came up here and they both played at a real high level for the Utes and helped to win a bunch of games.
Right. So they can look at it logically.
So it is, yes, that is the way the world works.
But you act like they can't look at it logically.
Well, I think a lot of them aren't. I mean, I hear complaints from people. So
but you can complain about it, but that doesn't mean that you are you don't understand it.
I haven't talked to people who are outraged. The outrage is more on social media, and who knows if that's even real, so whatever. But when I talk to people, face to face, knowing Ute fans in the community, I would say that they're more disappointed but resigned to it. And I get the disappointment. I mean, Buchanan was making so many big plays. I'd be disappointed too. I get it.
Well,
he's a good player.
Let's not go crazy here. He was he had 427 yards.
He wasn't making them all season. It was late in the year. Yeah, he didn't. I think if you look at the game by game, I don't. My memory is
Vegas Bowl.
What?
He had a big Vegas Bowl.
Yeah, but I think in November he had some big games.
I mean,
but I don't think
wasn't
he
even
did
a leading tight end receiver.
No, I know.
It's nothing against him, but
it's
not like he can't be replaced.
Totally believe that. Yeah. There's lots of good tight ends. Iowa State had 2 great tight ends this year. I mean, there's tight ends. You can find them if you want them. Right. Go get them.
So is it that big of a blow when these guys leave?
I think the thing I've always thought from the second it was announced Kyle was getting the job was he's going to get you players. I never thought he was going to take a lot of them because I think Michigan's got a pretty good roster. Plus, he's going to get players from the transfer portal all across the country.
And he just got somebody from Texas.
Yeah, and he's gotten somebody from Oklahoma and on down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got a running back from Oklahoma. But I did figure, man, if the Utes are always putting guys in the NFL, and if you can play in the NFL, well, then you can probably play for any college. With the possible exception of quarterback, because you only want one quarterback, only one can play and all that stuff. But at every other position, you're not going to have enough pass rushers. You're not going to have enough running backs. You're not going to have enough receivers. You're not going to have enough defensive backs. So I always figured Kyle would take some elite guys. The whole tampering thing doesn't really bug me. These guys have agents. They've all got agents now. And so an agent is going to connect the dots and is going to call and say, hey, do you want our guy? And what's the number?
Yeah, coaches are being contacted when they're under contract.
Yeah.
So what's the difference?
Right.
I'm sick of the tampering. There is no tampering.
Yeah.
There's no tampering.
Right. They don't have to.
Bronco Mendenhall told us that.
Yeah, Bronco told us
the mythical hotline.
Right, but some people think that there is tampering.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, fans that want to.
There's no. I can get to your guy to see if he wants to join our team.
Correct.
Just like LSU got to Lane Kiffin during the season.
Yes.
And got him to take that job.
But I think even more so that you don't, as a head coach, you don't even have to do that because the agents are getting paid if they get more money, and the agents can figure it out and connect the dots. You think the agent for Dampier couldn't figure out to call Utah when Beck went to Utah? Of course he could. Or Davis's agent?
Yeah, but that was after the season.
Whenever they go.
Yeah, but it's understood after the season.
Okay, well, Michigan, this is after the season also.
Right.
So, but regardless, I don't think the agents care if it's after the season or before the bowl game or after the bowl game.
That's not what we consider tampering after the season. We're talking about the word tampering. The only time tampering can occur is during the season. Yeah. So that's the hubbub there, and people make a big deal about that. Well, that's when the season's over, it's understood that it is this year-to-year free agency here. So I don't have that's no big deal. There's no that's not a problem as far as that goes. I just wonder if the Utah administration is bothered by this. Could they have let Kyle go one more year? Or it's like, what's the point? What's the point? Are we going to keep doing this every year?
They could have done it. I don't think they had any appetite to do it. It was so far down the road. There'd been so many conversations for so many years. I think it's at a point where you do it and the consequences are what they are. I think that's what they were thinking. And I think that's a pretty normal human thing to think. This has been, whenever you have a big decision holding over your head, whatever it is, there comes a point where you just want to be done with the big decision and move on.
Yeah, but you want to make the right decision. You're not just moving on to move on so you can be done with it.
But we all get impatient.
I want to make the right
point.
decision every time. If I wait another 6 months and the decision is overwhelmingly right, I'm glad that I waited another 6 months.
That's a clear and logical thought by you, and I get that. But we all
Who wants
get
to
impatient,
make bad decisions?
But we all get impatient at some point.
Why? Why do they need to get impatient here?
Because we're tired of the situation, whatever it is.
They're going 11-2. That's something to be tired about.
It's more complicated than that, and you know it.
Why?
Because they're people, and they have emotions. It's not that you're wrong. You're right. 11-2 is 11-2. Deal with your emotions. And yet as people, we don't.
Yeah, but they have to answer to a fan base that's going to
and they will.
Infuse money.
Yes.
And the 100%. Fan base wants to win. Remember last year, all this wailing and gnashing of teeth when Tonavasa left?
Yep.
Well, the Utes won 11-2.
I know.
And they'll be in the top 15.
And right.
So they had
another guy stepped in.
A kick-butt season.
Yeah.
And they were awesome.
Morgan referenced that without referencing it, but at his press conference, that's who he was talking about. He was talking about the wailing and gnashing of teeth over Tonavasa, who's a good player.
Sure, he's fine.
Get another good player. It's like the tight ends. Go get another good tight end.
And this idea, and we keep playing this thing about Weddle that they use. We want to get back to guys that want to be Utes.
That's just
Nobody wants to be a Ute. There's like a handful of guys. Yeah. You want to go where it's the best situation for you. That's a fantasy. That's a romantic Hollywood depiction.
And
I want to be a Ute.
And it's not the way things
Did Dan Pierre grow up thinking he wanted to be a Ute?
Nope. Nope. And
if somebody came along and tripled his money, wouldn't he leave now? He'd be a fool not to.
And this part, the money part is new. But the whole, who you grow up rooting for and then who you end up playing for, at some point you make that transition. And I think, wasn't it Britton and Jeff Johnson who grew up? I mean, when they were really small, they were Cougar fans.
I don't know.
But then they got to that point, and it was kind of like, well, you got to go to the U now. That place is in disarray. Here you got a chance to win and some kind of pro career.
Yeah, I don't care with that's silly stuff.
It's always been when the whole you grew up rooting for and you want to be a.
But now it's about money, and if you
more
have the opportunity,
than ever.
if you have the if you have the opportunity to get that money, go ahead. So
and isn't the money only going to accelerate? I mean, whatever it is this year,
I don't know. I don't know in 10 years if it's going to be 10 years incrementally bigger. I just wonder if they'll crash at some point and say enough is enough. I mean, BYU did it with the Marion kid. And so, although he went and apparently got the money at Miami, I would assume. But we're hearing more and more boosters say, I'm not going to do this every year. I mean, unless you have what BYU apparently has, endless amounts, and you're the live tournament, and you can just pay whatever because it's just so bottomless that you can do. I think there will be some form of norm, and the good old days financially are right now.
Jason Cole, longtime NFL writer and analyst, talking NFL playoffs in about 15 minutes right here on The Zone.
This is JJ and Alex. I got this.
It's official, the 2027 Winter Classic going to get played at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Here's what's cool about this is a fan base and this is a state that knows how to fill up a stadium even if it's cold. And it's one of those deals where I think that a lot of folks are not just excited about it. It's another tip of the cap to the folks at SEG. Frankly, they're pulling out all the stops to make sure that everybody gets visibility in this market, which is what you need.
We're growing up as a sports market, and this is a sign of that. The passion you see in the Delta Center, in their barn, every night they play at home. And then to get an event like this coming to town at Rice-Eccles Stadium. And we're not far off from the 2034 Winter Olympics. Mm-hmm. You just see all these things happening. Just insane the amount of growth we're seeing when it comes to sports. And this is just the next big thing.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. And now, Really? Your Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer strong play of the weekend.
Brock in the shotgun. Here's the snap. Purdy wants to throw. Purdy pressured. Purdy steps up. Purdy throws. Caught. Touchdown, McCaffrey. Touchdown. 49ers back in front.
There's the Chevy Strong play of the game. And the 49ers get the win. Know that today after 3 o'clock. JJ and Alex will ask for it, and you can win fabulous prizes. The touchdown catch on the option pass coming over the top of the helmet. That was a crazy catch. That was really difficult. When I saw him start to twist, I thought, perfect play, and they're going to throw an incomplete pass. Totally had the Eagles snapping. And McCaffrey, that was really well done by him. We were just talking about the mood of Ute fans with John Henry Daly, one of 3 guys now committed to Michigan. How are you handling that? And
I'm in San Bernardino.
Good for him, but I could care less. And Scally, we trust. That's Eddie. It's pretty logical. We're moving forward with the guys we have. Well, can't remember who dropped that, but somebody did. Some coach at some point.
You do care. But it doesn't have to be something that is anything close to fatal. And can you overcome it? Absolutely.
Kevin is one of the realistic fans you were talking about. The portal giveth and the portal taketh. I can't count on anyone coming back. New team each year. If you get to build and develop anything, then it's a gift.
Well, then you build and develop for 2 years and then they leave. Or you'll build and develop for 3 years and then they leave.
Yeah.
So who knows? And I'm surprised that BYU hasn't had more defections, if that's what you want to call it.
It made me think that the money must be good at BYU because the players seem to be chasing the money. I don't think it's Texas Tech good, but it's better than a lot of people.
So you think it's money? I mean, they would tell you they love you up and it's the culture and all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm. But I think they do all that stuff too. But I think it's money.
You think it's money.
That other stuff is how you win the toss-ups. When everybody's established a market value and everybody's offering you whatever they're offering you, $250,000, $500,000, $750,000, whatever it is, then that other stuff comes in. I think if somebody's offering you $250 and somebody's offering you $750, players are going to go get the $750. But if everybody's offering you $400,000, the culture, the love you up, and all that matters, and the trust and development.
Yeah, but is that a realistic scenario that somebody's offering you $250 and somebody's offering you $750?
I think in some rare instances it could be.
Well, of course, and you'll.
Well, but
anything I say, you'll find rare instances.
I was thinking more of kids. I think where it's common is where kids are at a quote unquote lower level. And the school with more money comes in with a lot more money just because they have a lot more money and they pay. And schools with less money just can't pay that.
That's not true.
I don't think that would be the gap between the Big 12 and the Big 10.
Why would that be? Everybody's got the same amount.
Everybody hasn't had the same amount. And I don't think even now with the rev share, I don't think everybody's quote unquote playing by the rules. I think that's why people wouldn't sign the rules.
Right. But you still have $20 million.
Right, but you have NIL on top of that.
Sure, but you still have $20 million.
Yeah.
But the NIL is not going to just, I'm just going to go.
And
go ahead.
To clarify, PK, it's up to $20.5 million. Yeah. Not all schools are funding that full rev share.
The Power Four, aren't they?
The Power Four, the vast majority, if not all,
are.
Now, what about the Pac-12?
Well, that's a good question because I don't think all of them are at that level yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Yeah, but I don't see where that case – like Sam Levitt, the Devils could have kept Sam Levitt. Mm-hmm. But there's no point in keeping him. Right? They could have paid him whatever he's going to get from LSU or Miami. But why pay that? Because you've got he's not that good, and you've got a team. If you want somebody, I believe you can get them financially. But you have to look at the whole team.
Right. But at the end of the day, Arizona State has, I assume, $20 or $25 million to spend on players. Probably.
Well, the 20.
But they probably have some NIL money beyond that. But I think LSU and Miami have more, so they can afford. To your point, why pay 95% of your budget to get one player? That doesn't make any sense.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
Over the top.
But they could pay him. But they choose not to.
Right.
And they're not worried about it.
But by percentage, Miami might have, or LSU, or wherever it ends up going, might end up paying the same percentage of the money they have to get him. They might think the quarterback is worth X percent of our pool. But that number is bigger because they got a bigger pool.
Well, they're desperate.
Is you desperate?
Not anymore, no.
Because Dillingham figures I can find a quarterback and get 90% of the
in the
production.
portal already.
I can get 90% of the production for 60% of the money. Because I know how to coach up quarterbacks.
Right.
Yeah.
They've gotten two transfer guys already. And then they go and they spend the money elsewhere to outfit a team.
But I assume Miami and LSU have more money than ASU. So they can afford to pay him, and they still have a well-rounded roster.
Okay, but so then you lose 3 other guys because you paid him all this.
That is possible. You have to make these choices. And as much as we're going to sit next year and talk about coaches and all that, I wonder how many of the wins and losses are really quote-unquote front office type, decisions about who you paid and who you didn't.
Why pay him that kind of money?
Because you got it.
Yeah, but you don't have an endless supply, though. See, you're acting like, well, they can just, Miami or LSU could just pay him whatever and then pay everybody else whatever. No, it doesn't work that way. It's not going to be the case.
Well, Kiffin's pretty good at it. I mean,
it's all Moneyball.
He figured out it is Moneyball.
Yeah.
It's totally Moneyball.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they may go there. He may go ahead, take the cash over there. But then that means you're not gonna have as much money to pay for Johnny and Joey over here. Nobody has an endless supply.
And then we'll find out who got it right next year.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Jason Cole, longtime NFL writer and analyst, joins us next. 5 wildcard weekend playoff games in the books, 1 to go. We'll talk with him next. DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jason Cole joins us now. Longtime NFL writer and analyst. Jason, welcome back to the show.
Good to be here. What's going on?
The NFL playoffs are going on, and all I hear anybody say is, it's wide open. And I think, it largely is wide open because the best teams don't seem to have playoff experience, so we're not sure we really trust them in the big moment. And everybody seems to have a little bit of a flaw.
You don't think Bo Nix and
Drake
Sam
May?
Darnold can just roll through this?
Yeah, right?
Drake May just, nice through butter kind of stuff. They're ready to go. Sam's never had the yips or anything like that before, has he?
It's never happened. So that's what I was getting to. Is that how you see it? Wide open. Don't ask me for a prediction. Nobody knows. These are one-possession games, and one receiver drops a ball. And, man, maybe it was just me. I thought I saw a lot of drops this weekend. I thought I saw a lot of quarterbacks getting let down by a lot of receivers.
Yeah, I would say A.J. Brown probably owes
most recently
Jalen Hurts an apology because he'd still be running right now if he had caught that one over the middle. I mean, he was behind. That was just such a big drop. It wasn't just the first down, but it was the sizable gain because he was behind the defense. I mean, it was just such a bad drop. I would say this. There were some drops, but like Trevor Lawrence, the 2 interceptions that he threw in that game, and those are so much on him. Those are such Trevor Lawrence plays when you look at it going, man, you just have all sorts of ability. But in key situations, like, what are you doing, man? Like, really, what are you doing? You got to look off. On the first one, it's a zone defense. You got to look off the defender. On the second one, like, you're staring right at the play, and Tre'Davious White has got perfect coverage, like just perfect coverage. And you still try and force that ball into him. And this is where, like Jacksonville puts together this really good season. Their defense is playing off the charts, but they can't get past their quarterback, who's the former number one overall pick, who by this time in his career, you would think he should have fixed all of this. And that's the kind of the story of how the NFL playoffs are going to unfold.
One of our NFL guys that we have on during the season last week was going off about Josh Allen being 0-4 in the world, and my partner DJ was saying, oh, come on, man, that one where Kansas City came in with just a few seconds left, you can't really put it on him. Where do you stand in assigning individual credit and blame to a quarterback, whether his team wins or loses?
Like, the quarterback is the most important player, and we've geared the rules so much towards the quarterback that there is an inordinate amount of credit or blame that goes up to those guys. There's no way around that fact, right?
Right.
At the same time, yeah, teams. This is a team game. It's all the classic cliches that you talk about. But at the end of the day, I measure the truly great quarterbacks of this game are ultimately measured by the number of titles that they win. And I know that that's not totally fair. Like, we could sit here and say Dan Marino is more talented than all of them, and that John Elway was more gifted than, Joe Montana, or, we can go on down the line, right? And that Terry Bradshaw won 4 titles, but there's nowhere we're putting him in the same group with Tom Brady or Joe Montana. You can do that all the time. But, there's a reason we call Tom Brady the greatest player of all time, because he's got the rings. He's got the pelts on the wall. And they play this game for a reason. They play to win titles. Entertainment is important, no question about it. But you got to win. You got to win titles in order to be elevated to that upper echelon.
Having said that, the guy who's got the experience in the playoffs, who I would think, Bills to the Super Bowl, except it's just Josh Allen, and it seems like a fairly mediocre group around him, that they really lean on his greatness. Is that the way you see the Bills? Because if it's not him, then it's maybe it is Drake May. Maybe it is Bo Nix.
Yeah, but wait a second. What team out there do you sit there and goes that's just loaded with some gigantic array of stars? Philadelphia was, right? Like, they had, Saquon, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard. They have Jalen Carter, but they're out now, right? The 49ers were loaded with stars, but all of them are in the hospital basically right now. These are all really interesting, okay teams that all have some kind of liability, but none of them are just loaded with 6 deep with guys who change games. So Josh Allen is the one quarterback left, him and Stafford, who's changed games the most with their ability to play quarterback. And Josh Allen's got, James Cook is a good player. Both tight ends are good players. Deion Dawkins is a terrific player with 4 or 5 Pro Bowls.
The defense blows, though, doesn't it? I mean, they've won a lot of high-scoring games.
Yes, but they also choose to play that way. There's some of that where they're playing for turnovers, and a lot of the reason why you do that is that you are undermanned, and you're going to play a certain style. You're going to try and bait people into playing higher tempo games than they want to play. But it is also because there's an inadequacy of their talent. I fully recognize that, and they're in transition on defense. There's no question about it. But they can score. And if they get into a game where it's a back and forth, they're as good as anybody, especially in this playoff setting.
I think you answered my question on the Niners, that injuries will catch up to them at some point. If you think otherwise, let me know now. But I think that's what you were saying, and obviously with Kittle being the latest. So then I go to the Rams right now. And you mentioned Stafford. I was waiting for you to put him in the Josh Allen category, which obviously I think he belongs there. Speaking of Stafford, and then they needed to squeak by, but they did squeak by. So now they got to go out on the road again. I don't necessarily care about venue. I'm looking at the Rams thinking, they've got a really good shot against Chicago. How much do you care about the travel and all that stuff adding up? It seems to me on an individual game basis, if I had to bet, which I would never do, but if I did, I would go with the Rams.
I would go with the Rams because I think that they're better across the board. Like, who on the Bears at this point in time would you trade for their counterpart on the Rams?
I got you.
There are some guys who are equal, right? Like, there's some guys who you say, that guy's as good as that guy, and that guy's as good. And maybe there's a couple of players where you'd say, oh, this guy on the Bears is better, but not at any position where you'd say that's a truly game-changing position.
Right.
So does Caleb Williams have the ability to be as good as Matthew Stafford? Obviously, yes. I mean, he's the number one pick for a reason. Is he there yet? No. Did he make a lot of progress? Yes. But Stafford is still the way better player, having come off a way better year, maybe his finest year of his career. So from that perspective, yeah, I give the Rams, just head up. I make them favorites. But there's, playing in January in Chicago ain't fun. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like this weekend, but that's brutal. And when you're a dome team, or you've been a dome quarterback for your entire career, that's an unpleasant experience. So we'll see how that one plays out. But I am concerned. I'm concerned about the Rams from that perspective. Do I think that they're better? Yes. But there is an equalizer factor in this one above that changes the outcomes of games.
But you feel better about the Bills going on the road to Denver because nothing's worse than Buffalo? I mean, as far as weather goes? Because Buffalo's favored. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, every day that you're not in Buffalo is a vacation.
I was in Buffalo over the summer.
And that's whether you live there or play there. That's true. But look, I kid about Buffalo. Niagara Falls is great. Downtown Buffalo is kind of cool, but let's be serious. You can be in Buffalo this time of year, or you can be anywhere else. Anywhere else wins.
You made a little bit of a satirical reference there to Bo Nix. I get your point, but then I look at Sean Payton. If the Broncos pull this off and say they have the opportunity and get it done and literally go all the way, does this really elevate Sean Payton in your mind as one of the, certainly from the offensive perspective, one of the better ones all time?
Well, he would be the first guy since Weeb Eubank, and I think only the second guy all time. Well, the first guy certainly in the Super Bowl era to win Super Bowls with two different teams, right? So that's number one. He would be the first guy since Weeb Eubank to even win championships with two different teams. Number two, the fact that he's taken that division by storm this fast, in a really loaded division, the top three teams, and then, the Raiders are still trying to figure it out. I would just say that, look, Sean Payton would put himself in Hall of Fame territory. I'm not, like right now, if you told me I had to vote on Sean Payton for the Hall of Fame, I'd have to really think about it. I don't know what his record is off the top of my head and all those other things. But this is the kind of thing that sets you apart and starts that discussion about whether you deserve to be one of the next guys in there. We have a pretty good list of coaches who belong in the Hall of Fame. Belichick's up this year. And then we have Mike Shanahan, Mike Holmgren, Tom Coughlin. I think those guys are there. Then it drops down to guys like Dan Reeves and Marty Schottenheimer and some others. I would say that this would elevate Payton up into that group of guys with Holmgren, Shanahan, Coughlin. He's not in Belichick range yet, but in that next group.
So do you believe that defense wins championships for all the quarterback talk we've just had? Because I'm looking at the teams in the playoffs, and if you're under 20 points a game defensively, you're pretty good. Now the Jaguars are 19-8. They're out, and Minnesota missed. But Seahawks, Texans, Broncos, Patriots, there's the Eagles are the top five, all in the postseason. The Eagles are out now.
Yeah, I mean, look, defense generally wins championships because the game becomes more physical in the playoffs, right? Like refs don't want to make the cheap calls. That's not to say that some cheap calls haven't been made, like the late hit on Jalen Hurts yesterday in the 49ers game was kind of a silly call. But they tend to not do that. They tend to let a lot of things go more in this time of level because you've got better teams playing better football, and referees just don't want to be the guys who determine games. They just really don't, despite whatever players really think of them. So you get less calls, like one or two less calls in a game. You get things taken a little bit further. The game gets a little bit more physical. That always favors the defense. But when I come back to the quarterback is, which quarterback do you trust who can make 3, 4, 5 plays in a critical game, like a 3rd and 6 or a 3rd and 7, a 3rd and 8? Who's going to come through in that critical moment? Who's going to fit a ball in against really tight coverage? And there's just, like, I look at Sam Darnold, and I watched that game against the 49ers to finish the season. Like, they couldn't be more scared of Sam Darnold to let him, start really ripping the ball around and throwing it. Like, they shut it down. I think he threw two somewhat challenging passes in that game. I didn't see anything in that game that made me say, oh, my God, look at Sam Darnold. Look at the play calling they're making and see what they're letting him get away with. I just didn't see that in any way, shape, or form. And that just indicates to me what the coaching staff thinks of it. And so, Darnold, Bo Nix, does a really nice job. This is, I guess Sean Payton's talked about this. He does a great job of avoiding negative plays like sacks. And that's a really good thing. It's important. I'm not dismissing that. But just because you avoid making mistake plays doesn't mean you're a guy with a propensity to make great plays. And that's where I sit here and say, I don't trust that guy as a quarterback just yet.
Sure. What's your level of concern that what we've known of the Chiefs is not what we will get going in the short-term future?
Well, they need to be totally revamped if they're skill position players, and they still got to rebuild their offensive line. So there's a lot of work to be done. They still have Patrick Mahomes, and Patrick Mahomes can cover up for a lot of things. He got them to a Super Bowl last year behind one of the most threadbare offensive lines you'll ever see. They had Tooney playing left tackle, and they still got Taylor over on the right tackle, and he's horrible. I just don't understand why Andy Reid still got him out there, but he probably doesn't have any other choice. But they need to fix that. And I just remember talking to people, and they were like, oh, Rashee Rice is coming back. Rashee Rice is coming back. Look at this. It's like, that ain't Jerry Rice. That's Rashee Rice. Mm-hmm. He's okay, but he's a number 3. He's not a number 1 or a number 2. And, Xavier Worthy, he's not even Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson could really scare a defense and get her open over the top and make some big plays and change the way that a defense is going to play against you. Xavier Worthy doesn't do that. And so and Kelsey is, if he retires, he retires. If he doesn't, he doesn't, we'll see. But Kelsey's not what he once was. And he's not going to put in the work to get to that high a level. He's got a different life now. And I don't blame him for that. He's got a lot of really great things going on and a lot of effort he's put into doing things off the field to make himself a lot of money and involved with a woman that most guys would dream about being with, right? So, Kelsey's not, ever going to return to what he was. He's going to be just okay. And so they need to revamp it all. They got to do some serious work to get some really serious weapons.
We'll leave it right there for now, Jason. We appreciate the time and all the opinions. You're never short. We love that about you.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
All right, there's Jason Cole, longtime NFL analyst and reporter.
Do you dream of being with Taylor Swift?
No.
Most guys, that's what he just said.
That's what he did say, yeah. I don't think we're of the right generation to ask that question.
Well, why not? I dream of being with Sydney Sweeney.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with generation, big guy.
To be fair, I don't remember my dreams, so who the heck knows? Maybe I do. Maybe I just answered incorrectly. Do you remember your dreams? You wake up and think, I dreamed about this, I dreamed about that, or whatever?
Well, I know I dreamed a genie.
Nice. Old school.
See, Taylor Swift isn't where it's at for you?
No, not really.
Why not?
Sometimes a little just too much of everything. Just too much.
How could you have too much of that?
Yeah, too much.
For me, I don't think there's anything that I would remotely consider even possible in my lexicon to say I have too much money.
Okay. She's worth like $1.5 billion, so yeah, if you want to marry for money, absolutely. Paycheck is why I live in Utah.
I don't want to marry her.
You just want access to the money.
Yes.
And we'll just leave it there.
How about you, Yak? He's most guys' dream of being with? That's what he said. He's Jason Cole.
Taylor Swift's not my cup of tea, but hey.
I wonder how much of her political allegiance played into it.
I could play into it, yeah.
Because if you go on his Twitter, he's awfully political. He believes one side is absolutely right and the other side is absolutely wrong. Much like you.
There it is.
Whoever you is.
Well, on camera, they just saw you wave at me.
Well, it was your opportunity to respond.
Nice.
You
are so good.
I went like, I didn't wave at you.
Okay.
I just went, your move, counselor.
Counselor. That's so official.
I didn't wave at you.
Counselor.
I didn't say, unlike you. Jeez.
The beach is that way.
A little defensive.
It's a constant personal attack.
That was not a personal attack.
When we come back, everything you missed in this show, the football, the basketball, the 55-point debacle, the rivalry game. That's next.
Whirls around and down. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone is your exclusive home of the Utah Jazz. And we want to send you to the Delta Center to see the Jazz in action. Listen every Tuesday for the Jazz Ticket Tuesday Sounder. At 30 past the hour, every hour, all day long. And if you're caller number 12, you'll be on your way to an upcoming game.
Buy one, you'll get one free.
It's Jazz Ticket Tuesday. Every Tuesday throughout the NBA season. On your radio home for the Utah Jazz. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Slacker Radio Headlines brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan Wealth today, your local trusted financial fiduciary. Call them at 801-210-6800 or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. Talked about a lot of stuff today. Jazz got themselves blown out. They ran out a small, inexperienced team and got hammered by 55 points. How much more of that can you take? That's a question up on Facebook. And PK, the answer seems to be that, you're going to have to take it for at least another 40 games.
If I only had to take it for 40 games, I'd sign off it right now. Meaning next year would be competitive. Next year would be what the Suns are doing this year. Is that possible?
Get back to 500.
Suns are 9
They're
games
way
over
over.
500.
Yeah, I don't know if 9 over is possible. That hadn't really occurred to me. I suppose it is, depending on whatever moves they make in the offseason.
Right. Obviously, you would need to make...
You need to make moves. They will make moves. Everybody makes moves every year.
But really good moves.
I was thinking more 500 next year. Well, we'll see what kind of moves they make. I mean, we're guessing about a roster that we don't even know the composition of the roster.
Suns made several moves.
They did.
Retained Booker, who's a nice player.
Yep.
Grayson Allen, a couple other guys. They didn't move everybody.
Nor would I expect the Jazz to.
But they're a nice story this year. I was down in Phoenix, tried to get tickets on Friday, and oh no, it's a hot commodity. Last few years, they begging you. At least my ticket broker guy.
Yeah.
So with that in mind,
can I have 2 tickets? No, take 4.
Can they do that? Oh yeah, I can remember I hit him up, and he gave me tickets in the area, and then gave me suite tickets later.
Nice.
And so I sold the tickets in the regular seating area. I went down there and held him up, and some guy comes over to me. Hey, look, we got to go across the street. And then he starts walking me down. Let's go down there. I said, I'm not going down there. I'll walk across the street if they got some rules, but I'm not going down there. I mean, he wanted me to go down some alley. I'm not going there. I didn't trust him. It's dark. He said, no, I'm not doing that. So they've had a nice bounce back. We'll see what they do. I mean, I'm not expecting them to go all the way by any stretch. Yeah. But to be 9 games over 500 after they've been so
surprising. It's really surprising.
Yeah, and good for them. Can they do that? Yeah. I mean, that's a franchise that didn't make the playoffs last year, but they still are way better than where the Jazz are right now. I understand that. So
okay, but the Jazz are where they are right now because they're trying to be where they are right now.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, Ainge, and people are going to say, Ainge said they weren't going to tank. Austin said that. Okay, well, he said it at the podium, and if he says the truth at the podium, the league immediately finds him. So you got to consider the context somebody gets asked in. You got to find some way to not say the truth. I mean, you could give it a big old non-answer. You could just talk about how the sky is blue, and then you didn't lie. Yeah, it's a non-answer.
So you got to lie.
You got to lie. That's if you tell something that absolutely isn't true. But have you ever heard of the non-answer, where you ask a question, then they start talking, and you realize they didn't answer the question?
Yeah, sure, but he didn't do that.
He said
no, he didn't.
He was asked straight up about tank. He says that's not going to happen.
And he could have talked about the grass is blue
and he did it with
the sky
attitude.
is green, and he did do it. He did a definitive. Rrr.
Yeah.
Yes. And that looks like a big old lie right now.
You know what it reminds me of? Larry Scott. Only Notre Dame will be grandfathered in to be playing later in the season. And you're like, wait a second, Larry. Time out here. That doesn't work. And you were right.
I was. But in that case, I don't think
he to fill out the schedule.
Yeah, but I don't think he lied. I think he was just wrong. I'm not sure it occurred to him.
That's
I'm
Larry
not
Scott's
sure it
prerogative.
occurred to Austin at the time. Thinking, I'm going to hit the ground. And I think that when he was asked about that question.
Oh, you thought there'd be big moves in the summer, and so they'd be all the way out.
And I think he was going big picture, not exclusively to 25, 26.
Whereas we were wearing scars he wasn't wearing.
Right,
Everyone in the room is like, all right, good. We won't do that again.
We're not going to be an organization that tanks.
Yeah. Except for this year when we might lose our pick.
Well,
but again, he can't say he's going to get fined. So.
But I don't know that he was. My guess is he wasn't specifically talking about that.
Maybe not, because I got to say, initially I took him at face value. And
I think we all did. But I think what you just said, he's looking at it. This is my introductory press conference. That's not who I am.
Right.
It's not what I was in Boston. I don't know that. And so he's thinking along the lines of what I'm about. Now, this situation this year, because of the bad trade, giving up the pick, it forced it upon him. And maybe they would have, even if they had the pick, they would want it anyway. So maybe it's not really any different. Maybe
it might not be about the pick.
Giving up the pick wasn't good, but maybe it has actually no effect on the objective this season, because so it doesn't really matter.
They might be trying to get top 5, top 3. Yeah, top 5 worst record, and then maybe you move into the top 3 or 4.
Yes.
Or all the way to 1. Who knows?
And I just think dumb luck has got to shine upon him. And it goes back to what Steve Cleveland was saying about an hour and a half ago. What level of faith do you have in the administration? And I know it's rough, but I still have faith in the executives.
So get past the draft pick. And the salary cap thing, like the trades in the league have stopped. I just can't believe that in the 3 years Danny Ainge was calling the shots, the trader Danny didn't make more deals. But the whole league seems to have frozen up.
Yeah, but
and
why
Austin,
do that?
And Austin, because I think that he'd be good at taking a player who's a C and trading him for a B, and a player who's a B and trading him for an A. I think you keep winning trades and you keep improving. That's why I think.
Yeah, but you're not gonna get that way.
Not get what that
to
way?
The level that you want. The way you're going to get there is through the Oklahoma City model, through the San Antonio model. Win in the draft.
Well,
Miami and the Lakers can do things differently.
Oklahoma City was a mix. I mean, there's no way around it, man. San Antonio lucked out in the draft so big.
Oh, I think for
Good
them
grief.
it was one trade and draft.
1, 2, and 4. Just unbelievable. They've been in years when the draft was really good.
And you're talking of the Spurs. I think I might have said San Antonio. I meant OKC, that they did one trade and a draft. And then once you've got the top level pieces, you brought up a Brian Russell earlier in terms of our discussion, and we're going to hit that as the weeks go on here. And your thoughts of, and I think it's valid that you think Hendricks and Williams are basically back end of the rotation guys. Yep. But those types of guys, if you got studs, or in the case of the Jazz and Russell, statues at the top, they become valuable. And I'm looking at a kid
beyond that,
a Lou Dort.
Yes.
Not a player in his own right that's going to shake anything, but you put him on that team, and he needs to be the junkyard dog that'll get in everybody's face. That's what he does. And now what is he in his third, fourth year? And it looks like this guy, an undrafted free agent, is going to have a 10-year NBA career based on toughness.
Yes. And I think that the reason the Joker only has one title and that he doesn't have 2 or 3 at this point is because they haven't been good enough at guys 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's not to demean the back end of the rotation. You got to have the Joker. But if you have the Joker, you don't have those guys, then you got what Denver has.
Except that Russell was a second-round pick, and Hendricks and Williams are top 10 picks, so it is demeaning them.
That is a total difference.
And Lou Dort was undrafted. 60 opportunities came and left without anybody calling his name. In a year, the Jazz had 3 second-round picks and didn't hit on any of them.
And they didn't realize that this guy's going to play in the league for a decade.
Yeah, right.
Because he is.
Right. Yeah.
That's not even really debatable at this point.
No, he's probably close to halfway there.
Yeah.
Already. And he's still young, comes out after 1 year of college ball,
which
means he's 19 years old. So if he's got 5 years in the league, that puts him at 24.
So I guess the thing to say about these guys is, were those weak drafts, and who's drafted after them, and does anybody do anything? Because that was kind of the
Well, yeah, I know the
Greg
kid over
Ostertag
the Chicago Bulls. That foreign dude was drafted, and he's a player.
Because Greg Ostertag was drafted, he was the last NBA player in the draft. Everybody else after that busted.
That doesn't mean you have to give him a fat contract.
100%. That's a different problem.
Yeah.
And it was a problem.
With the emphasis on fat.
Hey-o!
Yeah.
That's another guy they should bring back into the organization, because he is the king now.
He's been around.
Saying, he has been around, and that's the only reason I know the story I'm about to tell is because I literally saw him walking downtown. And I talked to him, and he was walking on the other side of the street. It's like, that has to be Ostertag. Who else could it be? He's 7 feet tall. And he's got all sorts of regret about not putting everything into it and not being in better shape and not being just like, he just wasted opportunities. So
that's the story of my life.
So he could come in and he could say that. And
I'm going to put that on my tombstone. Wasted opportunities.
We talked football this morning. Surprised by anything? Maybe the quality of the competition? That was 5 games, and 4 of them went right down to the wire.
Saturday was a good day of football. You know, if you're rooting for specific teams, I understand that. But for the rest of us,
entertaining.
Just want to watch games games.
But even Sunday, the Bills-Jaguars game was good, and the Niners-Eagles game was really good.
I watched the Bills-Jaguars game from Dirk's Bentley's got a slew of bar restaurants, and one of them is in Gilbert, Arizona, and that's where I watched that. That was fun.
And I assume that in Arizona, no matter the team, they have some fans there cheering. People are from everywhere in Arizona.
There were some
Getting
folks
good weather.
that were involved in the game. Yeah. I mean, I was just sitting there watching it to watch it. Other people were. Couple of F-bombs by that time. The liquid refreshments had taken over.
Cougars are 3-0. Utes are 0-3. I think that's what we all expected when we came back here on Monday morning, but that game was way more competitive than I would have guessed. The Utes' first 2 losses in conference were by double digits.
I think you got to tip your hat to the Utes showing up. And I know it's no moral victory, blah, 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 which I disagree with. You just can't state it. Well, I'm happy with the outcome. You know, you can't say that. But I think that was a performance that they could build on.
It's way better than what they've seen last few times out. Way more competitive than Arizona. Colorado on the road was a double-digit loss.
Yeah, you can argue that Arizona's better than BYU.
That may well. We'll get to see that. They're going to play twice.
There'll be opportunities.
Unless they play 3 times.
Have that come to pass, yeah, for sure. So, but at the same time, BYU won the ball game, and they should be happy for winning the game, going in there, and it's a rivalry game. You're going to get the other guys. I understand that, but they got issues on this team, and they spent a ton of money, and
they're down 2 rotation guys, so now they're thin. And to your point, man, a sprained ankle at the wrong time could really wreck them now. They can't lose
March.
They can't lose the third guy. Don't do that.
Right, and they need those 3.
But maybe they've had their bad luck, and maybe it'll be fine now.
Well, I mean, you never want anybody to be injured for sure. That doesn't do anything.
I do wonder how much of that is BYU. They played a lot of good competition, but play a lot of road games. It's this in Kansas State. They only played 2 true road games. So it's different. Now, you could argue that game was maybe a little neutral courtish because there were so many Cougar fans in there.
It's a rivalry game, man. Yeah. It's a rivalry game, and even if you're here for 3 or 4 months, hey, it's a rivalry game.
Okay.
And Alex, and they don't need anybody to listen to anybody but Alex Jensen.
Yeah.
They don't need to bring anybody in.
He's been there.
He lived it.
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
All right, DJ and PK, your feedback's next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's time for your feedback. What do you have to say about today's show? The losses, the tanking. Glenn says, I'm good with the tanking, at least till the end of this season. We need that pick. Jake, 44 more games of tanking. Just keep the pick. Shane's on the other side of the equation. Inexcusable. It's that kind of effort that drives fans away.
Yeah, I think you can tank and not lose by 55.
Not be down by 31 after a quarter. Hang in there for a while. Let go of the rope and right out of the gate on Saturday. Just another dad. I've become a casual fan. Games are fun. I really like Lowry and Keontae, but we aren't a serious team. So I'm not a serious fan. When, or if, we become a serious team, I will reevaluate.
Reevaluate? No. You'll change and get back in. Yeah. I'm okay with that. You sort of did that with the Padres.
Yep. If you're not serious, I just can't lose a lot of emotion over you. If I can look at your roster in March and think, if you're really good, you'll win 72 games and lose 90. Uh-huh. and I was right for a decade. But, man, got more interesting when they started spending money.
And then you got back into it. You got back in. You came back. Back to the days
you gotta
of Benito Santiago and Cisco Lascano.
Which is
and
actually
the shortstop number 11, Enzo Hernandez.
Well, no, they really sucked in the Enzo Hernandez era.
Right, but you were still in, though.
I was way in. Yeah. I was a little kid. I was elementary school. Benito Santiago, right, that was another, they weren't great teams, but they were 90 win teams.
He could throw guys out. 90 win is a good team.
Yeah.
He could throw guys out at second base from his knees with his offhand.
Yeah, but it was different when they had Kevin Brown, when they just flat out went for it and 198, rented him for 1 year and said, let's go.
Benito would throw guys out from his left hand on his knees. He would go around the right-handed batter. That's the arm that he had.
Throw behind the left-handed batter down to first base.
No, he'd do it at third base, too, with his left hand.
He did not do that. You're making stuff up.
Mike Ivy.
No, I probably did see him play because he only made it to the show briefly.
Something.
Number 1 pick in Major League Draft, and he's a catcher, and he gets a phobia about throwing the ball back to the mound.
Then he should have rolled it.
He could have used Riley Jensen, who wasn't born yet, but nonetheless.
What was Colbert's first name?
Nate Colbert.
Nate Colbert.
Nate passed away, and Nate was the man.
Yeah.
Nate tied Johnny Bench for National League home run leader, 37 or 38 homers.
Right.
1 year, yeah.
Right. See?
Those were the days.
I thought they'd never end, my friend.
Yep, they ended.
They're saying that Sam Levitt is committed to play quarterback for LSU. Barstool ASU. Former ASU recreational basketball player Sam Levitt has committed to play quarterback for LSU.
Because that's how he's supposed to have gotten that midseason injury. It was in a pickup basketball game. Dude, you got to be more disciplined than that. You're the quarterback. You're getting millions. You can't play pickup basketball.
And then after that, there was a falling out between he and the head coach.
Yeah, probably because the coach said, you can't do that. What are you doing? You cannot do that.
And that's how Barstool reports the news.
All right, we're all done. Jake and Ben are up next right here on The Zone.